Hello everyone and welcome to the Creative Noahland podcast. Look, I'm going to try and keep this intro as short as I can because this is a big one. On this episode, we're joined by photographer Tim Bret Day. Tim is a photographer that I've admired my whole career and someone whose work speaks for itself. You name it, he's done it. Advertising, portraiture, celebrity, books, art, and he's a natural storyteller. So strap in because we do dance around a lot in this one, talking about everything from Tim's creative journey, our mutual love of Helmut Newton, art and surrealism, Agent Provocateur and creating complex tableau images for their campaigns, and what it was like to shoot with David Beckham, Grace Jones and David Bowie, and who, out of all these celebrities, has been his favourite person to shoot. But amongst all the chat about A-listers and glamorous campaigns, we go deeper and talk about inspiration and much more personal stories about family, about legacy, and about the work that will be in Tim's magic tin. Look, don't worry, I promise that will all make sense. Anyway, check out the links to Tim's work while you're listening to the podcast, of course. And as I say, strap in and enjoy the Dark Prince of Acton, Mr. Tim Bret Day. Everyone's going to ask you about Bowie, aren't they? Usually.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love that story and I think the listeners would like to hear it. But it's not going to be my first question. Is your first influence of photography from your mum's magic tin?
No, I think that's the answer. I think that the first influence is, so I basically was useless at school and all I wanted to be was a rock drummer. I was waiting for John Bonham to die and leave Led Zepplin. Of course, they were going to ring me. I was going to join the band. It was all planned out. They obviously didn't. And I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. So I got a job. My very first job in photography, which wasn't my intention, was working as a darkroom assistant at a press agency that did paparazzi at the airport. Most of the time it was like banging out a few 10/8s and local newspaper stories and all that kind of stuff. How old were you at this point? 22.
And before that, it had all just been, I want to be a drummer.
Yeah, that was it. It was, and I can't even remember the bloody series of events, but I still think you get one person that puts you in the right direction. And then it's just how things fall into place if you're lucky. And I think it is luck. I think it's if you seize the opportunity, and I was a bit punky and I thought I was cool and interesting and I wasn't. And I was living in Slough, it was not rock and roll. And you get a series of events happen. One was in a horrible little group of people who were headed for trouble, but who were played in loads of bands with. And changing point number one was we go and see all these Bruce Lee films, at the Slough Granada. And then my mates went, we're going to go see this film, The Eyes of Laura Mars. It's got loads of sexy birds in underwear. It's going to be great. And I went with some girl called Susan Jones. And a little bit, I remember coming out of there thinking, I felt that I connected with it. That film still is the number one influence. I then got really into Helmut Newton, massively into Helmut Newton. And I started going out with girls and taking pictures of them. But the band was still, being a drummer was still a thing. Then I got this job in the darkroom. And weirdly enough, one of the photographers at work there who had an airside pass, and they worked freelance for the Evening Standard, Evening News, Daily Mail, everyone. But they also, all those papers had their own guy there. And we were the dog's body. And he came into work one morning. I'd been there for about 3 weeks and went, one of the photographers has had a heart attack and died. Anyone fancy being a smudger? And that was the second turning point was he went, right, you have a Rolleiflex. On the outside, you've got an arm. You tilt this arm straight up. That's a 10-foot walk. You tilt it at 90 degrees. It's a 6-foot smiley. You look through the rangefinder, never bother focusing. Mecha Blitz flash, 250th at 8. Off you go. There you go, son. And it was literally out airside. Ryan O'Neill coming down the corridor. Look this way, Mr. O'Neill. Click. Click. 6-foot smiley. Actually straight in at the deep end. And baptism of fire. But working with guys who could do it with their eyes shut and knew it was all about context. There was nothing to do. Pictures was irrelevant.
Yeah.
It was getting the Mick Jagger shot. Coming off Concorde at 12 o'clock. Are you prepared to wait for 4 hours? And I was on shift work. So it was like I did a 6 till 3, but that was the thing. I suddenly thought, what if I was a bit cheeky and used a pseudonym? Because the idea is you take the picture, shoot down to out of airside, order a bike and send the film to wherever. So if you looked around you and saw, right, Dave Parker was there from the Daily Mail, Dennis Stone was there from the Daily Express. So you'd think, right, the evening news isn't covered. This isn't covered.
Oh, I see. You sort of go, right, those
and I got
avenues are ticked.
Yeah, I kind of thought, in for a penny, in for a pound. And you always use Liverpool players, John Barnes. It was like it's about 1980, 81, something like that. And that took off. I had this thing where I kind of was like, do a role for the agency, a role for the Evening Standard, a role for the Evening News, John Barnes, John Aldridge, off they go. And at first, no one knew who anyone was. Everyone thought maybe they got them from PA or something like that, but no one put 2 and 2 together. And then.
So what, you were using a pseudonym of that?
Yeah, that was it. John Barnes.
You were using
it was all Liverpool players. And years later,
I used. You meant that you were photographing them at the airport.
Oh, no. It was all people. It was all, A-list celebrities. I've still got a few. I've got Diana Ross. I found Peter Sellers. Yeah, it was all these sort of people.
That's hilarious.
My favourite was always Roger Moore and Jaws. Roger, could Jaws just lift you up off the ground or something like that? And you go, oh, go on then. You also learned to get the money, put the invoice in, get the picture, and it didn't matter how you got it, you got the picture. So that was a real eye-opener. I still to this day have a real, that thing we all go, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. And it's, will you do it for free? No. Anyway, I did that for a year with my friend Adam. Yeah, the better we got at it, the more the competition got, and nicking your car keys and hiding your cameras and tripping you up.
Oh, really?
Going down
Just trying to scupper you getting the shot?
Brutal.
Was it that bad?
Yeah. Proper hardcore guys. They were nice, but like get in the way of them getting a picture over you, not a chance.
And at this point, are you still, this is just a fun sideline, but I still want to be a drummer?
Yeah. 100%.
Okay.
So,
but then when did you move on to, because you started photographing bands?
Yeah. And that's what happened. I left that job. I got this, for some reason, I can't work out the order of it. I was going to the LCP at the time, local technical college at the time. And that was my first person, the first person who sacked me from a job as a graphic designer, because I thought I was going to be going there and doing, Raoul Rauschenberg and pop art and being all, and it was like, no, we've got to do a drawing of a lawnmower for the Slough Gazette. And a week into the job, he went, Tim, can I look? I don't mean to be mean. You're wasting your time.
Oh, really?
You're not going to, and I'd had so many jobs. I had quite a long period of not having any work and building sites and what have you.
Just because you didn't have that direction, or you were so keen on wanting to be the drummer that you thought it's just ends meet to earn the crust to pay the drum?
I don't know. Honestly, I think nowadays everyone would say it was ADHD, or I keep getting told that at the moment. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. Like in my head, John Bonham was going to leave Led Zepplin and I was going to join.
Yeah.
It was like, well, why wouldn't I?
I'm just waiting for that day.
Waiting for that day. I wasn't waiting for you to die. God bless his soul, favourite drummer. But then he said, I'm going to send you to this local technical college. You need to go to photography school. But no word for lie. I remember walking in Slough Technical College, another joyous place. I walked in, did not fit, really didn't fit.
In what sense didn't you fit there?
How I dressed, how I looked. The fact that I was a boy, I wasn't a builder. Everyone was doing, building courses and things like that. And I remember sitting down on the first day in the refectory and just sitting there on my own thinking, oh, this is uncomfortable. The first sugar lump comes over, then another, then a bowl full of sugar, then a cup and a saucer. And I thought, I think it's time to make my exit. And I left and I walked down and I was doing an A level, I think, in geography, so I could get into LCP. So I had to have I didn't get any A levels. And I went down to the art room, which by chance, I met this lady called Penny Charrington, who she'd been at Chelsea Art School. She just went, oh my God, you're a bit of a wrong. And I went, well, thank you very much.
She took it as a compliment.
And she said, why don't you do art A level? I said, well, I've never done art. I can get you through art A level. when are you leaving? I said, well, I think I'm doing geography A level in June or something. So it was like 8 months of me.
So is this your first kind of input into, say, art, rather than in terms of, you're obviously into
100%.
music, you're obviously aware of album art and all these things, but to actually for you to be creating or thinking about doing art for yourself?
Yeah, 100%. And she was just amazing. She was just great. She went, don't ever go in a refectory again, because next time it won't be nice. Trust me. Just come here, do your art every lunchtime. Just do it. I kept my job at Brennard's going did weekends and evening shifts there.
So a real nurturing
So it was a bit of a, she completely. And then she said, why don't you go to LCP? And I went, I won't get to that. And I did. I think she got me in. I don't know how she knew someone or.
Just through creating a portfolio of work through those art classes?
I did it in like no time at all. I had a muse at the time, a girl that went out with, who was very pretty, who looked a bit like Brooke Shields, a Nikon FM that I got from work, and a Rolleiflex. And I shot all my early pictures. And, you know, I don't know if I had a talent for it or whatever, but I loved the idea of photographing a girl and creating these little stories. The Helmut Newton, absolutely. They were all Helmut Newton rip-offs all the time. Loved the man and I loved the humour. And
have you read his autobiography? This will be
absolutely amazing.
Brilliant.
Well, the museum in Berlin, if you've been to that,
I haven't. No.
Go. Foundation's amazing.
Really?
Absolutely brilliant.
So during that time, you're producing photographs. Is it more, even though it's more, would that be what the equivalent of an art foundation course now, where you dip your toe into bits of everything, or did she push you in terms of the photography?
I did. I think I can't remember what it's called, but you did film, TV, and something else. And then as soon as I arrived, I was playing in a band, and one of the guys ended up in Iron Maiden. Actually, I've forgotten his name, but he had a girlfriend who came over from Japan, who was a journalist, and he didn't want to go out with her. And he said, Tim, any chance you could pick her up at the airport and take her back to yours? And I kind of went, oh my God. And then of course I get back there and she's heartbroken. And then she went, will you take pictures? And I said, yeah. She said, look, I've got to do all these gigs. If I give you 3-4 gigs a week, could you photograph them and send the pictures to Japan? So I'm like, absolutely. So I quit my job. I still worked at Brennard's at the weekend, and I went to college in the week. And then usually Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, I'd go to the Marquee or the Roxy or 100 Club or whatever it was. I used to shoot 3 rolls of black and white, 2 rolls of colour, go home, Paterson tank, process them, Paterson enlarger, pull the toilet seat down, put the enlarger on top, do a contact sheet, 3 sheets of contact, pick up 2 rolls of colour, 160 tungsten. Next morning, send to Japan, £30, thank you very much. Never even gave a shit who the band was and at the time, 1981, it was 82, it was like all those bands were happening. And when I was at lockdown happened, I went to my mum's and I found some of the old negs.
Oh, really?
I thought I'd sent everything off. And there was a neg case with Irish band, Gobby Fella, Weird Hair, and it was U2.
But you shot a lot, didn't you?
I shot loads. And I seemed to be the Brennard's, the press thing. It just taught me, I'd get in the pit for 3 songs, which is what everyone got.
Yeah.
Don't get in my fucking way. And I shot it all available, like 160 tungsten, push 2 stops and Tri-X at 800. And then she started getting interviews. And she, can you cover this interview for me? And I'd shot, and you were shooting Echo and the Bunnymen, and you were shooting Around, can't remember, the World Culture Club. Yeah. Well, and just going along and just doing them, not with any kind of plan. And then I was doing that. And then I obviously.
So more on a portraiture base then?
Yeah, like live
a
gigs.
Bit more PR. Yeah. This is the band. We sat down with an interview.
But at college, I think I was doing portraiture, even though, I would advocate college because I only knew Helmut Newton and Guy Bourdin. That was all I knew. But at college was good because it showed me Edward Weston. It showed me, Steichen, Stieglitz. It showed me.
But is this where you found surrealism, or is that later?
Oh, God knows. I don't know where that comes from.
Because obviously you cite that as quite a reference. And I know we're jumping ahead, but to your future work, obviously I see that a huge amount. So I'm just wondering, while you're dipping your toe in the art world, you're looking at Newton, you're looking at Edward Weston in terms of a photography point of view, but not so much the surrealist.
No, not at all. I don't think. I think to me it was about, and it was a degree of lifestyle to it, but it was where it took me. So I'm at college, I've got the job. I started assisting a little bit, and I leave college with, I say a degree. I think I got a degree. It wasn't a very good one, but I had to write an essay.
But that's what a lot of people, you end up writing a dissertation. You could have the most beautiful body of work, but if you can't spell or write.
Yeah.
Same with Bailey with his dyslexia, isn't it? He's like, I can make a picture and I can explain it.
Well, I think it works both ways. I think sometimes I get aggravated because I'm not ignorant about art, but I hate, a picture of a pencil and someone's writing about, this was taken by this person and they were abused and this was what happens. It's a countercultural reaction to say, and I sit there again, picture of a pencil. I've still got a bit of a newspaper. What is it? What you're selling, what you're doing through it.
What you're trying to say, yeah.
And so that's why I never see myself as an artist as such.
And that's a massive Helmut Newton influence, well, isn't it? He's never going to.
I'm not doing it unless there's a reason, And what was lovely was that the reason got more and more elaborate. So I do the assisting, landed on my feet in terms of I assisted food photographers, all kinds of people.
This is the synergy because I did exactly the same. I did food photographers, car photographers, fashion photographers. I mean, it's a different world now, isn't it?
It changed for me. I think that the next change after Penny Charrington, God rest his soul, Neil Kirk, so I was doing food and I was doing this thing. I think the food photographer I worked with employed me for my labouring skills. So I built his kitchen and we didn't seem to shoot very much. I was getting like, I'm not going anywhere with this. Where do I go? Actually, if I'm honest, I fell out. He hadn't paid me for months. And I picked up his Hasselblad case and went, you'll get this back when you pay me because you're just taking the piss. So that old brutal side,
Where does that come from? The drummer in you?
No, I think it came from the airport completely. Yeah.
Really?
I still had that thing. What's that Don King says? It's not how good you are. It's the deal that you negotiate. And, I'm not money minded. I'm not clever about anything like that, but I hate that feeling of someone. I'd do something for free. I'd give a print away. I've got no problems in it. But if I think someone's taking the piss, I'm a terror. It's not going to happen. And I drove home. I went to Vestry Street and I knew there were loads of photographers in Vestry Street at the time. And I went to see Victor Ewan, who was a fashion photographer, Brian Seaward, who was a car photographer. And I literally went up, no, got to the top floor and I met this character called Neil Kirk, who at the time was huge. He was doing all the Roxy album covers. He was shooting loads of fashion. He was really rated. Everyone really rated him. And he didn't even look up from the light box. And he's a very hard person to like unless you really like, perverse characters, because he was 6 of the weirdest people I've ever met. He could be really lovely. He could be a monster. And he didn't even look up from the light box. He went, "Oh, can you drive?" And I went, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, do you have an HGV license?" I went, "I do actually, yeah." "Have you got an American passport and visa?" At the time, "Yeah, I've been there with my girlfriend that summer." I went, "Yeah." And he went, "Okay, well, I'll see you at Heathrow on Monday." And then bye. I don't remember him actually looking up. He was editing film on the light box. And I turned up Monday morning and was like, boom,
That's quite a list of specific things. I mean, an HGV license, for one, is quite specific.
Yeah, it was just driving vans and things like that in America. And it was really random. I mean, he didn't ask me if I knew how. I mean, fortunately.
Didn't ask you do you know how to load a camera?
Yeah, nothing like that.
Process film?
And because his whole style was completely basic. I mean, it was like he shot on Echtachrome 64. He shot lots of long lenses, 200 and 300 low f-stop lenses, fast lenses. That was his style. If it got technical, he'd be like, "Well, can we get one of those redhead things and put one on?" And there was no lighting, but he didn't need it. His big influence was Martin and Cassie's style and spontaneity. And Spontaneity and Style, there's 2 books. Neil could make models move, and we all know it. We get the girl come in who's new, doesn't know how to, and they're wooden, and you're thinking, "Oh my God." And that old, when you start out and you're like, people say, "What do you say to them to do?" In fact, an interesting thing was a car photographer, when I was working at Neil's, came up one day and he went, "I've got to shoot this model." And they want the car company and wants to get in and out of the car. What do I do? And he said, "Any chance you could just go and shoot it?" I went, "Yeah, sure." He's lit the car perfectly. And I've gone, all right, just sit in the car. You just get out of this amazing car, fabulous. And then you get out, you look $1 million, drop the fur coat on the floor and walk away. And girl just does it.
Yeah.
Did it 3 times, but there you are. You went, "Oh my God." But that's what I learned with Neil. I just learned, get the girl in there, give her a mark to work off, and then move. Mm-hmm. And we'll find it.
Yeah.
We'll find it. It's not about being, still life photographers want precision. They want it to be exactly in control. And Neil had this.
You can't do that with
You can't. And then the funny thing was when I left after a year or so with Neil, which was turbulent,
In what way was it turbulent? Just because
he was old school.
Difficult.
Really difficult. Yeah. Could be really, he thought it was hilarious to tell you the wrong airport, or Neil would say, I remember being on a beach going to Crane Beach in Barbados. And that's where I'm with Neil. I didn't go home for 15 months, I don't think. It was like, what the hell? I mean, we went from New York, then we went to LA, then we went to Hawaii, then we back to London for a couple of days.
Wow.
And it was like proper what you'd imagine fashion photographers were like at that time. And I remember he went, oh, Mr. Tim, he used to call him Mr. Tim. Mr. Tim, why are you bringing that ghastly 300 millimeter? We don't need a 300 millimeter. Okay. So I leave the big Nikon case at the hotel, get to the beach, walk all the way down the stairs, get on the beach. Right. Where's the 300?
Yeah. Classic.
Oh, I'm afraid Mr. Tim forgot to bring a lens. Everyone back in the van. We need to go back to the hotel. God only knows why, but that's how it works.
That's so strange. And to tell you the wrong airport, it was to me, as someone who worked in a system,
that was bare basic minimum. That was like,
oh, right.
Yeah, I went to the Mardi Gras in New Orleans with 3 of the top models in the world. You didn't turn up. And he rang me after. After 2 days. He went, oh, I decided to go on holiday. And we decided to shoot a campaign out in Greece. Can you tell whatever her name is from the magazine that I won't be there?
There must have been some serious budgets knock around at those times then, just to be able to get away with that.
To show you how perverse it was. She's like, he is dead. He will never work again in this town. I hate him. Tell him he's a bastard and all this. I'm like, oh God, this is awful like this. I fly back to London. About 2 weeks later, it's, can you get a grey colour armour? What we shooting? Oh, we're shooting. And it was that magazine. Yeah. She wanted, Neil, darling, Shadzi, how are you? Oh, how are you, darling? Like this. Carried on like nothing happened.
So how did you make the break from being an assistant to shooting more of your own?
Bit trickier, that bit. I knew with Neil, I got to the end. I had a particularly turbulent last trip in the Bahamas, and I probably did something I shouldn't have done. I wasn't late. I'd like to just, in my defense, Your Honor, and he just put me through the ringer. Absolutely. Don't touch the cameras. Why are you loading film, Mr. Tim? Mr. Tim, why don't you just go back to your room? You're not interested in this. And it went on. It went on for a week, and
vicious.
I went, time to leave. And I had a period when I left for 6 months where I was living in Stockwell. And I used to get up every morning, go to the local pool, Kennington Pool, and swim a mile, come back home, have beans and toast, sit around, go back to the pool, swim another mile. I mean, I was ripped. And I thought, I'd lost my confidence. My mojo was gone. And next person in your life, when you take sliding doors, was probably a lady I'd worked with Neil, Pat Crouch. And she did a magazine called Honey. And it started so many young photographers, Mario Testino, Klaus Whitcraft, Neil, Tony. Really was an amazing magazine. And she rang me up one day and kind of went, what are you doing sitting on your ass? You're right. You're doing a test for me with Judith, my assistant. And she made me do the test. And I really, really didn't want to do it. I was just like, I don't want to do this.
What, just because you'd been out of it for so long and you were sort of lost
no,
your flow,
it was just,
or?
I just didn't think it just annihilated my confidence, that's what it is. And it is all confidence. And I'd overthought everything. And I did a test with Judith, and that was it. Oh yeah, I'm doing this. And then I started testing. Pat was amazing. She gave me like some early intro pages, gave me a main fashion story. And the nice thing was then you work with people on the up and up, so people at the time who in 5 years time were like top of the game. Yeah. So I worked with really good hair and makeup people. Pat was fantastic. Kim and Judith were really helpful to me.
And what are you creating in these tests? I mean, because a lot of people when they go, is it, I know your work now, but is it on the same realms, or was it simple background, simple fashion, or you?
I was shooting at no word for lie. I used to take 2 old-fashioned 1K tungsten lights, a 5.4, a wooden, old-fashioned Gandolfi wooden tripod. I used to take it on the tube.
Honestly?
And go and shoot on my own, no assistant, 5.4 dark slides, loading it, unloading it. How I did it, I have no idea. But I had no idea about budgets or anything. That was great. That was a real good thing. But then what happened was people started going, yeah, but can't you shoot like Neil a bit more? And I saw that my route definitely got you noticed. So I think then people, they wanted that quality of photographers. Paolo Roversi and people like that were coming through. Valon Rat was a real early influence for me. And I thought, well, I don't want to be one of these bulk standard photographers. That is what fashion is a lot of the time. Dress it up how you like. And I'd love to be weird and wacky all the time. But if you're going to do catalogs, or if you're going to shoot next, or you're going to shoot money, it's 200, 300 mil lens, Nikon, bosh, 3 rolls of film and out the door. So I had a duality, which I think all photographers do. You know, one of the things that I'd always credit to Neil was I went out and I tried to shoot down the Mall on a 300 mil lens like Neil did. Well, it wasn't quite as easy as I thought. With Neil, it would be just like this, stick the camera here, 3 rolls of film, next. Never changed the background, never did. And it was like, the next shot goes with this goes with that, this is this.
Wow.
Simple. No, doing a crop, don't do a full length. It was, that's the shot, move on. You know, but I picked it up. And again, that's where the pseudonyms came in. I suddenly started going, so I was doing Over 21, I was doing Honey, but then I started doing Cosmopolitan. And you did Cosmopolitan, it shut the door to L. If you did this, L, it shut the door to Harper's.
You're still using Liverpool.
So yeah, it was.
Liverpool,
so if you look through about 1994 to 1990,
John Barnes shot most of the editorials.
John Barnes shot a lot of them. I think there's a few Ronnie Whelans. There's a few names in there. Jan Mulvey. It would crop up, and Cosmo, to their credit, were amazing. Gave me loads of trips. Ian Webb was doing Blitz, which was like the Face. Face was off limits. You couldn't get in there. It was close shot. But Blitz was really good. Ian was another one that kind of got wise and went, actually, I'd quite like to be the fashion editor at Harper's. And
is this what opened the door up to those other?
Yeah, I went with him.
You ended up shooting for Face and ID, didn't you?
I did all those things. But Ian was really interesting because, he was doing Blitz and doing, I think, really, really innovative work. You know, desperately wanted to shoot that kind of thing. And then, but my first break with him came, I remember, we went to Tenerife. I look at the pictures now and I think, and Pat was giving me a magazine called The Magazine, where she really let me do what I wanted to do. And I shot 6, 7. I just shot with more of a sense of design.
Sorry, she gave you a sense of that you could do what you wanted. Yeah. What did you want to do at that? What were you?
I like that. I like the technical challenge. I wanted a light, because one thing I learnt with Neil was just, I mean, give you an example. I remember going to Paris to pin up. It might have been Cartier. And we shot with Amanda Casley, who was one of the Madonna girls. Great girl. Hilarious. And he said, when it gets to the studio, I mean, I don't know, just get everything. So I go there, I set up an MSQ with a Quadra. I set up some tungsten with like direction line. I do this, I do that. I've got 4 setups all ready to go. Everything's, and Neil rolls in and goes, oh, what's behind the curtain? Oh, a window. Oh, that's lovely. Let's shoot it there. Just wrote 3 rolls of film. Yeah. Shot the 3 rolls from right. Where are we going to lunch? And the client are going, but he's going, no, we've got it.
Really?
Right. Lunch.
And you've spent all that time, all these intricate lighting.
So,
no, we'll just use
but I loved him for that. The picture was great. Yeah. It was really, style is something that Neil definitely had style. And I think, which we talked about the other day, the curation of learning, maybe at college you learn Western and Stieglitz and all those people. With Neil, I learned a lot of important fashion people, like Michael Roberts. He worked with Michael loads, and other people came into Neil's life, like Brian Ferry, because he do the Roxy covers. And there were lots of people who massively influenced him. I'm not being mean. Neil's pictures never turned me on, but I'd always look and think, that's beautiful. We shot Jaeger campaigns, and Jaeger was a really boring brand at the time. And Neil would be on the plane and read Architectural Digest and go, oh, I found this marvelous house. We're not going to go to New York. Let's go to Chicago. And we would. And we'd land in New York, fly to Chicago, and you'd find that there was a little plane connection. And we'd get on a 6-seater plane, fly to Pellston, shoot at this house. It was just done. And you went with what Neil saw. He had a beautiful sense of soft light. He knew the right time. We were up early. And you'd be, like we would now go, oh, the light's just right at the end of it. You go, no, it's too orange. There wasn't color correction then. He knew exactly. Yeah. He knew what X-Chrome 64 did. Yeah. But he knew it. I think we used a reflector once. I think that was almost kind of like,
really?
Oh, it folds out. Oh, that's interesting. But I don't think we'll bother with that. He'd just wait. Some of the locations that you went to and you think, why has he waited all day and then we'd shoot in the right place.
Perfect. A
5
golden
minutes,
hour with that 5-minute window.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice. It's beautiful. They're great. Yeah. Much harder than people realise.
Are you learning at that point from people like
Yeah.
Neil that style is important?
Yeah. 100%. I think I'd see, I'd work with Neil. The first models I worked with Neil Kirk were people like Susie Bick, who's married to Nick Cave, but Susie at the time was a bit crazy, a bit spontaneous. Jenny Howarth. These girls are right at the top of their game. Real personalities, tricky, lovely, but tricky. They got their own agenda. They're partying. They're making their way in the industry.
Would you say it's definitely a different era of fashion back then?
Yeah, I would. I think then it was just there was this crazy crew. Everyone wanted to be part of this gang. Like the Face was, it was like all these people were so cool, and yet you met them and you were like, not really, but their curation. And a lot of the time people like that more. It's more about sometimes how you live. I lived in this squat for 3 or 4 years with all these cool people. I am not cool by any stretch of the imagination. And I would literally come home and there'd be Boy George and Marilyn snogging on the sofa. And I'd go in the kitchen and be like, they've drunk all the milk. I don't fucking believe this. And I'd go and I'd measure the milk. And I was like,
line on the
my
bottom.
room was really tidy. Everyone else was like crazy in it. And it was absolute madness. And in fact, someone showed me I was on top of the list to go to Taboo. It's in that fashion museum at the moment. And there's my name at the top of the list. And I'm thinking, I went, but I wasn't cool. We were definitely around people who had no awareness of it at all. I was really determined. I wanted to get probably wanted to get where Neil had been.
So at this point, you've given up waiting for John Bonham to... You've taken the bit by the teeth and gone
I'm
photography.
not sure. I still have 2 things. I still wait for George at Anfield if I go to Anfield. But I think probably 2 years ago, I suddenly realised George isn't going to say today's number 12 is Tim Bret Day. He's going to play in midfield for us. Oh, that's good. No, that's not going to happen. I was mature about it. I was about 59 when I stopped dreaming about playing for Liverpool. I haven't given up. Maybe Jason Bonham's going to die now and they're going to ring me up.
Do you still drum?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Can
you think of a moment when drumming did fall by the wayside? Never. Still in there.
If I got the choice tomorrow, if I had the ability I had at 25, which I definitely haven't got now, and now the drummers are just so much better. Same with photographers, isn't it? It's like, people don't realize that when I was working for Neil, I could probably name the photographers working in London. So Stuart McLeod did all the beauty, John Swinnell, Tony McGee, Neil Kirk, and then up and comings were Martin Brady, Mario Testino, Victor Ewan. But if there was 20, there'd be a push. They just did everything. And then you built up, I was lucky in the sense that I obviously did something and then someone would talk or someone would move on. And, like I say, Ian went from ES. Then he did a magazine called Reaver. Then he took me to Harper's. Then once Harper's started new, there was a little bit of we want to get him. So Elle started to book me.
So you become that sort of name that people want.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to that question about, are you developing style at this point, do you think? Are you aware of that?
You develop style, but you're also learning how to light. And 96, I don't remember exactly, I had a bit of an epiphany. So everyone was shooting in this style. Then grunge came along. The Larry Clark influence came in.
Yeah.
Corin Day, massive fan of. David Sims, massive fan of.
Jürgen Teller, is that the same?
Yeah, Jürgen. Those people came through and...
Did you like that style? Because it was that kind of heroin chic, and then you've got the Testinos that are doing the later that do the suddenly changed, didn't it?
Yeah,
I think glamorous again.
I think you liked it because it wasn't what was around. And that's what everyone does. That's what fashion trends do, 1 minute.
But were you going down that fashion trend of like that heroin-y chic, that grungy, or was it just the nature? Because obviously your work, if anyone looks at it, it's super polished, super
It is
constructed.
now.
That's what I mean now. And I'm trying to find how you got that to that style.
I think I would shoot. I'd say the next massive influence with me was Roberto, who was my black and white printer. He wasn't. He was like my dad. I'm still really tight with his wife and daughter after he died. And he died very young. He died at 47. And I used to do my trips and I'd shoot like 10 rolls of Pentax 6.7. I wouldn't shoot Pentax 6.7 for Next or on Barbados. I'd shoot on a Nikon on the 200, 300. That's what we did. 105 maybe if you were really pushing the boat out, going avant-garde. But all the best locations in the world. Yeah, I had my face and go, oh my God, not St. James's again, you know. I did a bit, yeah, probably. But it was just handed to you on a plate, you know, you just did. I had all these Client Burton groups, so Dorothy Perkins and Laura Ashley, Next. I can't remember all the catalogues. You were just constantly away. And I loved that lifestyle, 100%. I was so like Neil. I remember it was a turning point actually, what I had was getting in a lift in Miami. And I had a little Billingham bag. I'd had the same Nikon FM with the motor drive since I started. And I think I'd splashed out and got a spare one and a reflector. And this photographer got in with got everything. He's got all the scrims. I was like, scrim?
Yeah.
What's that? 20 foot, what? 12 foot scrim, what? I had no idea about lighting. And I thought all the time in that period from 94 to 98, it was that thing where, okay, I need to know. And I remember getting one of my very first advertising jobs and the guy went, yeah, can we knock the background out of focus? But I was lighting it with an NSQ and I shot it on an RZ and I only had one lens.
Oh, really?
And I was like, you knew, and I don't know how to do this. And he kept going on. And I kept doing a Neil and going, no, this is how to shoot it. And he was like, no, I want it out of focus. And having a day that day thinking, right, I need to know how to do this. And funny enough.
Would you say you were still sort of winging it then at that time?
I still am.
I suppose that's a recurring theme as well.
Yeah, it's a recurring thing with the whole life. But I say winging it, you know, I always remember assistants used to say to me, oh, I work with Corin Day and I do all Corin's light. And I go, well, Corin shoots daylight.
Yeah.
And
I hold a reflector.
Yeah. You know, and she doesn't know what she's doing. I'm going, I think you'll find she does. I think Corin knows exactly what she's doing. It's in her attitude. It's in how you deal with the models. Not
necessarily the technicalities.
Yeah. You can create an atmosphere on the day. Neil, it was an undercurrent of, I better not piss him off. Whereas I assisted only very, very briefly, like 4 days assisted Paolo Reversi. And we shot on 10.8 Polaroid, minimum lighting, long exposures. And the guy was just charming, absolutely lovely to work with. And my evolution would have been when I left Neil's was I'm never treating my assistant like that. I don't believe in head fucks. I remember I'd show Neil Bruce Weber and Neil go, oh, really crass. And then he'd go and rip it off. And I was sitting there going, hold on a minute. And it was, but that was how, it was perverse. He was a very perverse man. Fashion is perverse. And I always say to anyone doing it, I think I can say this story. Carl Templer, who was a brilliant stylist, Carl basically went, I'm skinned. I'm shooting the face. I'm shooting all this cool stuff. I've got no money. Right. You book me for Harrods and I'll get you in. You'll do hype. You'll do the one picture at the beginning. You've got nothing to lose. And it went really well. I loved Carl to bits. Carl thought on his feet. Absolutely amazing guy. I really had a lot of time for him. And he gave me a real confidence in myself. I think I shot some really lovely pictures for him. And I remember him saying, look, I've got offered a job at Arena. I'm going to meet people. Now, look, this is fashion in a nutshell. Viewers listening carefully. And it is the truth. You will meet people in fashion and they will go, do you get the joke? You know, somewhere along the line, it'll be do you get this? And your natural reaction is to go, yes. And I'll go, well, there wasn't a joke. So what do you mean you get it? If you say no, they let you up and down and go, yeah, I didn't think you would.
Is that similar to what Neil sort of did in his sort of gameplay?
It dawned on me, it was probably about 98, that penny drop. And Carl said to me, because I'm a gobshite and I talk too much and I'm enthusiastic, I've always got hide the enthusiasm, shut up. And I'm sitting there going, did you get the joke? I'm going, don't say anything, Tim. And then I went, yeah, it's really funny. They went, no, there isn't one. I was like, oh, fuck. And that carries on. You know, the art is to say nothing. I can't speak for Jürgen. I think Jürgen is the master of, the Posh Spice, Marc Jacobs campaign.
Yeah.
I double dare you to say that's not cool. And it's, if you go, it isn't, they go, I didn't think you'd get it. And it's like, if you go, oh, it's really cool, it's pretentious. You can't win.
No win.
But you have to learn to live with that thing when you don't give anything away. I think that's really key. It wasn't for me. I probably lost out on some really key opportunities. Like I went to New York, and I think the guy who booked me for W magazine, and he just loved me for pure enthusiasm. He'd be like, can you shoot this? And I went, yeah, how exciting. And he wasn't used to that. He was used to, how boring. And I was just like, yeah, can't wait.
Do you think that opened more doors for you? That
opened different doors.
Because people were probably so used to that pretentious, darling.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure.
Just think that's where your Bermondsey roots come in.
Well, that's my mum's roots, maybe, but no, I don't think so. I think it's more from Neil and I don't want to be treated like that. Because I actually, weirdly enough, I love Neil. You know, like when you assist and someone's giving those opportunities, I did appreciate it. And I would have walked through walls for him.
Yeah.
And yet, that wasn't what he wanted.
No, funnily enough, I've been assisted photographers who I would have done anything for. And then something happens and you go, oh, you pushed me under the bus that quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I had a funny thing where anything I did wrong, and I got absolutely crucified. And he had an assistant after me who wrote off a Winnebago. And he goes, oh my God, Sean just wrote off the whole air conditioning system on top of the Winnebago by trying to drive it into a parking space. How hilarious. And I'd be like, if I did that, I'd get murdered for it. But it's just perversity, and it's learning. I think most people, I mean, after, I had that long run and I went to New York. The thing I didn't realize was as soon as you left New York, they weren't interested in you. You had to be there. It's like each country has a different thing. Paris is another one. You can go to Paris with the best body of work, and they'll ask you somewhere in the line, do you live here? And if you go, no, but I can get over here on the Eurostar, which is true. Mm. And at that time, it was like, no. And, there was an old assistant, Ben Hassett, and Ben went to Paris.
I know Ben's work.
Yeah.
Beautiful beauty work.
Best beauty photographer in the world for me.
I would be up there and agree with him, actually.
I think he's as nearest to Penn as I've seen anyone. I really rate Ben. But he went to live in Paris and he paid his dues. Paying your dues is, I don't know if it's the same now. I think it is. But Ben worked really hard for that and took some chances. And he learned the technique. If you ask me to open Photoshop, I don't know how to do it, right? I don't know anything about cameras. If you put a camera in front of me now, I watch people, I can film that in 4K and I can, it can like my own farts. It can do all kinds of stuff. I'm like, amazing. Where's the button? Just put it on monkey. Is there a button with a monkey on it? That one, put it on there.
I think you're underselling yourself a little bit there.
No, seriously, really? I don't. I know daylight exposure. That's about it.
I can't believe
and I know where the light's
exposing in concerts and bars.
Yeah, but it's not
airports with a Mets flag. I know you've been given the.
I know the format. No, I'm not. I know the format. I've always had great assistants. I think when I was at the studio, actually something that happened with when I was saying about Roberto. He kept saying to me, "Stop doing all these predictable pictures. Do the stuff that you do when you come back from trips." And at the time, that was nothing to do with it. It was reportage or anything. It was just straight from the heart. I would take pictures that I really wanted to take. I was very Bruce Weber, but I was like, I just knew that I wanted the model to go, I'm loving this. I'm loving having my picture taken. And I lived with a guy in New York, but he was Bruce's first assistant. And models would come round and they'd be going, I just die. I'd do anything Bruce asked me to do to have a picture taken away. I probably would have the same. It was, I wanted people to think like that about me. I didn't care whether it was lit with.
But when flash, daylight didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just...
and with Rob, he said, do the things you want. And I had when Rob died, I definitely had a real...
Sorry, who's Rob?
He was the black and white printer.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Rob died. I played football with Rob for years. Just larger than life. I can't talk about him, to be honest. Gets you upset. And I suddenly thought, right. And I had an office space underneath Brody's in Covent Garden. And an assistant of mine had a couple of strip lights and a MSQ and a beauty dish. And I'd say probably in 6 months of being there, in a tiny space, half the size of this, I could just about get a colorama up. I kind of went, oh, there's 2 strip lights down the side. And then I know exactly when this was 98. And I met Lee a guy called Lee Stewart, and he'd been a hand retoucher on Transparency, and he'd been employed to sell Dicomid, which was like a pioneering Photoshop, and it was digital. And I have got no idea about digital at all. And I meet Neil, and I'm thinking, when I do this 2-side strip light thing that came that's a bit funky. It was horrible. Yeah. It showed up and he goes, "Oh, soon get rid of that big waxy skin." And I went, "Oh, I like that toy. Yeah. That's the toy for me, matey boy." And it was 98, 99. Those 2 years, I overdid it with the waxy skin, 100%, but no one else was doing it. I remember taking a shoot to L on the CD and them going, "Sorry." And I went, "Have you got a computer?" And it was dial-up. It was 98.
Yeah.
And we're sitting again. Oh, there's a picture. And they were like, "So what do we do with it now?" And even the magazines were like, "Well, we've got one computer. Bob has a computer, the man with the pipe." Yeah. And I remember thinking, no, this is 100% going to take off, because look at things I can do. And at first people were like, "Oh, that digital won't open." No. And my assistant started getting I don't remember, there's a Nikon that they all bought, and it couldn't process information, certainly on black and white. If you did check, it went, and they all invested loads of money in these cameras. And I saw it all going tits up, but I thought, no. So I was shooting film
and
scanning it.
Bed scanning.
And at the time I was shooting on an RZ. And then I thought, no, I want to be Nick Knight. I'm shooting on 10.8 or 5.4. I shot everything I found an old 5.4 in a cupboard at CETA, the lab where I used to process. And I said to Tony, "Does anyone use it?" I went, "No, mate, you can have it." And it was a Sinar something.
Yeah.
With I can't remember what the lens was, 105, yeah?
Yeah.
That kind. So I put a little short bellows on it and shot a fairly wide lens. I don't even know what it was. And I shot everything on that, went into 5.4 film.
But that stand you apart from other people a little bit as well.
No, the digital did, because 99, and then when I looked, I was sort of shooting loads of, lovely high street fashion and shooting really, really good stuff and magazines. But then when that happened, I definitely had around 99, suddenly went, "Oh, who's this guy that does?" "Oh, he's like this technical wizard. He's amazing. He does all this magical waxy skin." And I started doing the Sunday Times, started shooting like big celebrities for that, and a big
because of this style,
because of this waxy style.
How would you describe your style of work back then?
I
imagine it's varied. You're doing campaigns, you're doing editorials, you're doing all sorts, but
I love
in your brain.
And I think I probably had a massive influence from people like George Hurrell, that Hollywood thing. I liked a small, almost like a focused light, but obviously with digital, you have to fill it out. I think too many photographers now rely on one big Optolight at the back of the room. I understand that 100%. And there's so much you can do. But in my principle of lighting, nobody write anything down there, but I would start with a beauty dish with a grid. So like a very focused light, and then just build it up. And I did become synonymous with 8 or 9 packs and heads was just standard. And I put the grids on, so that build up of light, and I loved building up, and then it got the bigger the area to light, the more packs and heads it got.
So you went from that 2 extremes of just going, "Oh no, what's these 2 strip lights?" And now you're mixing 8 to 10 lights everywhere.
I look at Transparency that I shot now, and I'm like, there's no retouch. There's really good lighting. But then with the multiple lighting thing became because I liked, I think 99 was like Beckham. It was Sunday Times covers. The Beckham led to the Bowie with Alan Edwards.
I suppose it's not going to be a Tim Bret Day interview if we don't talk about the Bowie thing and how that came out a little bit. I know it's a regurgitated story that probably everyone's heard, but it might be a different audience. So go on and talk us a little bit about Bowie. You sat...
Right. I'm going to speed this one.
Speed through it.
It was actually, and again, because I think I'm a bit on some kind of spectrum, I don't remember anything. But then someone pointed out to me, during we did that shoot with Beckham, and it was nuts. It was like, we started the shoot and there was nobody there. And then when we finished, there's 150 paparazzi outside. A really nice fella. And it got the cover of the Sunday Times. I think Alan Edwards went, "Oh, you might get a call tonight off one of my clients if you're interested." I went, "Yeah, sure." I'm at home watching EastEnders with my wife in my pants. This is 99. So it's mobile phones and shit. And the voice, it rings. We went through the whole, no, I'm David Bowie. No, I'm David. And I just was laughing. In the end, he kind of went, no, it really is. And I want to do this album cover based on the Pieta. I had to know what the Pieta was. And my wife's on the floor going through some art book, holding up a picture and going, oh yeah, Pieta, yeah, got you. And, and this sheet evolved. The album cover evolved. He was a bit in no man's land. He was a bit of is he dead to the world? Is he not relevant anymore? But I had this, it's Bowie. I'm doing this. And what was lovely was that the man he was really nice to talk. It was fascinating. Oh my God, I wish I recorded it. Weird enough, the guy I think he's from Scunthorpe, rang me and said, oh, I've got a behind the scenes film of you filming Bowie for hours. I went, I don't think so. And he sent it down to me and I've got it now.
Oh, wow.
And I remember the day completely differently.
Really?
But he was exactly what the story, here it is, it's coming, folks, was I got the roster thing and it was black coffee, cigarettes, and don't play any of his music. And he comes, entourage of one, Coco Schwab, who was his personal assistant. Basically, I wanted him to hold someone in his arm. So it was a real, not just Photoshop. It was, he'd hold someone in the clothes and I'd just do a head swap. And tiny crew, super funny guy. He got on great with the set builders. We did the thing. It was absolutely hilarious. But he walked on set and I'd had a few A-listers that, it was don't breathe, don't look, don't touch, don't smell, don't think. If you're going to point the camera at him, can you warn him that you might be taking a picture? It was all that. You had quite a few of them at that time. Outside of why I never really pursued celebrity, to be honest. But he wasn't.
Were you surprised then when Bowie came in with the entourage of one?
Yeah. I didn't expect that at all. And the funniest thing is he walked on set and he went, it's a bit quiet. Can we have some music? And I went, quick, assistant, clap, clap, Yeah. And the assistant, and he goes, but don't forget, please, I don't want any Bowie music.
Why do you think he didn't want his own?
I've no idea. Yeah. And the assistant puts on the first CD is available and it's Nirvana Unplugged, right. So the guitar riff comes up.
Yeah.
And he just looked and I thought, oh, he was fuming. And I thought, oh no, I've blown it. I haven't even taken the picture and I've blown it. And then he just burst into a big smile. And he was like that all day. It was it was more like working with Eric Morecambe than it was a rock star.
Really?
He had I think I've got a very similar, on the phone calls afterwards, the humor was similar. It was, kind of a bit, I don't know.
I don't want to go too much into the celebrities, but is that one of the most surreal ones you've probably done
No, Grace Jones. Grace Jones by Country Mile. But with David, he went, oh, what do you want me to do? And I said, oh, we set him on fire on this show. Everything I wanted to do, he did. The X-ray picture.
Which is very rare for celebrities to just go, we'll do that.
He went, where'd you get these? I went, I nicked them. I broke my wrist. Or when I was in Chelsea Westminster Hospital, there was a pile of X-rays and just helped myself and walked out. And no one questioned me. And I made this light box out of all the reject ones. So they had best mum in the world necklaces on and pacemakers and things like that. And it was just the thing that was interesting with the phone calls, probably more so than anything else, because, the Paxman interview, if you ever see that was his conversation. He went, you do realize www. is going to change your world. It's changing everything. He said it's going to be about, he used words like content and likes and cross-pollination and mixing with people. And I didn't really take it on board.
Starman's still way ahead of his time.
Yeah. I mean, the Paxman interview, which was then 99, he was doing that. He'd obviously come to terms with the digital age and was aware of what the internet would do. And he describes it as the best and worst thing that'll ever happen. With me, it was always like, how big's the billboard going to go? Right. I want another £10,000. It was, where's it going to go? I want another £5,000. And they went, and we're going to use it on this thing called the Tinternet and with a little tiny picture.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can have it for free.
Yeah.
Don't. A year later, it was like
worldwide usage rights on that. Thanks very much.
You just signed away all your rights, which actually took away a little bit of, there was a big thing about paying more money are paid for you about they thought you were. And then 2000 was a really weird time for me. Kid, lots of things happened at that time. And that's when I got the 5.4 and I went, I'm doing all this commercial work and all this Dorothy Perkins I was shooting everything, Jaeger, Selfridges, everything. And I went, I've lost track here. I need to
So was that more just about the commercial element? Within those jobs, are you getting to go, right, this is my style I'm putting on this?
No.
So, and in going back to the Bowie, you said you were imitating the portraiture.
Yeah.
Was that one of the first times you'd referenced art in your work, or is that an underlying theme?
No.
So where do you remember first? Because I'm trying to get back to those.
Yeah.
Because you've been very humble about, I didn't know anything about this, I didn't know anything about that. But obviously your work has now progressed, so you go, well, hang on a minute. You must have had some of these artistic-based influences.
I'd say 2000 was... I did this exhibition, Tallulah, for my daughter. And basically, and I'm doing a book on it now. But I just want to do a small book, and I've got another book I'm working on, my sex book. I'm going to say it, because I'm just not editing it. I've had all the PC things.
The sex book in terms of that's what you're going to call it, or you're going to call it like the Mizell Madonna book?
Yeah, no, it won't be like it. But it was, because about that time, Agent Provocateur happened. And so Waxy Skin was great. You were shooting lingerie. But then I kind of thought, Eric Stanton, I always loved the books of Eric Stanton. And I thought, I'm going to do this for Agent Provocateur. I'm going to make it sexy, but there's got to be this little bit of humor. There's got to be, can't take this serious. And it'd be using an attitude. So around that time, I was getting a little bit trapped with the Photoshop. Everyone's catching up. It's like AI now. And I think I was very lucky that around that time, I saw this digital catch-up thing happening and thought, I need to tell another story, because there's just, I saw the saturation, and I thought everyone is doing these things.
With the same look.
I've got to do something really different. And Tallulah Dreams was I shot 5:4 neg. I shot nearly everything for real, but I thought what I'm going to do is use the digital to just drop one thing in. And that's where surrealism starts out. And big influences, La Semaine de Bonté, and Max Ernst's book.
But had you been looking at this surrealism?
I'd always looked at art. But that was when you've got a picture here, and if you look into it on the mantelpiece, I've got Joe Corey, who was one of the owners, the man, him and Serena, husband and wife behind Agent Provocateur. I always got him in the picture, and in that one I turned him into the fireplace, and there's little guest appearances and little silly little things all over the place that I could add after.
But these tableaus is where I see the reference to Hieronymus Bosch, and
so that's 2003, something like that.
So is this pre-Bowie?
I was probably 2 years after, and the first Agent Provocateur stuff I did was very retouched, very Eric Stanton. It was like cartoons,
But was it in this big tableau style, or was there a different idea behind it?
No, it was totally I did loads for them. Absolutely. Yeah. The very first campaign I did for them was we did 4 fly posters, and born of a meeting with Joe and Serena. I kind of always had a little bit of I was, I'm not advocating I was a feminist or anything. But I said, I really don't want to shoot it where it's like, look at me, like Playboy, like licking my lips and looking at the camera. I said, it's got to have, I always say a story about when I worked in the Wimpy Bar. I had a crush on this girl, massive, massive crush. And she used to come in every day. And I remember one day, Susan Brown, and I remember coming one day and she asked for a Knickerbocker Glory. And I went, I've got this, lads. So I made this Knickerbocker Glory and took it over to her thing. And I just stood there staring at her. I was probably about 17. And she turned around and said, what's the matter with you? Do you want to photo or something? And that whole attitude, I walked away like destroyed. And that the eyes of Laura Mars, I think, is even a little bit like that. I always wanted to photograph women that were a bit unapproachable. Let's be honest.
And you wanted that approval. You said earlier that you wanted the models to go, I love shooting this. I love it.
Yeah.
What's that?
God, approval. There's a word coming into that Jungian territory.
Yeah, but that's where we've sort of got to go a little bit, I think.
But I remember going to the shop, Agent Provocateur in Broadwick Street. And I always remember Serena had a little, I don't know if it was a ploy or what, but there was a staircase. The girls would walk up the stairs and you could see up the skirt. Let's not mince our words. I'll probably get cancelled for it. But it was on their terms. I went, I'm going to get that. And I remember the first fly poster we did for them, the series of 4 with Ingrid Seinhagen in this little house. The idea was we had 4 boys and we were going to shoot in silhouette looking at this girl and she's going to be standing there with a whip. And I went, let's do it from the other side. So I went behind and shot the back of the girl so you never saw her face and you just saw the boy's reaction. And Joe's in that and Joe's got a big cheeky smile on his face. I think one of the boys was, say, not interested in girls and is just looking a bit aloof and a bit embarrassed. And it had a little narrative. And that was always, everything I did, the girl was sitting on the back of the boy, riding him around the room. It was always about...
Did you get that freedom with AP?
Yeah.
Over the other ones where they sort of like, oh, Tim's got this idea about narrative. He's got 19th century Renaissance art or whatever.
Joe and Serena, 100%. Joe, obviously, his dad was Malcolm McLaren, his mum was Vivian Westwood. And he got this punk ethos, but Joe does. Joe thinks out of the box. Joe thought the opposite. I love him. I think he's an amazing guy, and everything we did, it'd always be a little, if you got a little smirk on Joe's face, it'd be like, yeah, I've got this. We did loads of, it'd always be naughty, and I'd always kind of like go, I'm sure now, I don't know.
Do you think it would be too much now?
I don't know. I mean, I would say my defense is always, I still talk to all the girls I shot with, and I think we had a real laugh. I think the hair and makeup loved it. They were just really naughty and silly. I just think we generally had a laugh. Yeah. And I do remember those shoots shooting them on 5.4 in a house, trying not to blow the electrics with 7 packs and heads. Yeah. I mean,
so talk to me about the big, we'll include some of this in the show notes because I'm going to have my little fanboy moment because the AP stuff is where I was first introduced to your work. I was seeing it in the magazines. I was seeing it in the storefronts. It was, like you say, it was a revelation.
I mean, I'd like to think it was, I think up until the end of Tableaus, which was about 2004. And Tableaus is probably still, the Witches one especially. That was the first one we did. And I said to him, let's get away from sci-fi. Let's go Hogarth, it Rake's Progress. So the art, reference there. Joe totally got that. And I went, I think we should go to town and let's do the whole collection. So you'd shoot 25 outfits. And he went, well, we've got a budget for about 12 models. I said, yeah, we'll just get some of the other girls and we'll find people. And I still think that probably sums me up best in the sense that everyone else goes, oh my God, the hours of retouch. And I worked with the same retoucher for years and years, Lee Stewart. And Lee always had this thing. Whatever I said, he would just go, yeah, I can do that. Amazing and self-taught. But he'd pick up on whatever you showed him, he'd pick up on it and get the vibe and understand it.
Right.
It wouldn't have happened without Lee's brilliance. But you have to have the vision and you have to have the thing that makes you want to go, oh, I've got an idea. And it would be with Witches, we go to this country house. There's 10 girls from AP there, 15 models, and I lock the camera off, set one lighting big, and I've done it like classic, huge softbox, but I've still got all my little
edges and ribbons and
tinkle. Let's pick a little highlight out. We're showing that bra, but there is someone there going.
Yeah, because they're by no means flat, these images whatsoever. They're beautiful.
Well, and you've got to show the product. On Pirate says one where they wanted to show this bum of a pant, and there's a keg. And I've just got the girl to lean in climbing the keg with a leg sticking out the end, wiggling about, or it'd be like everything had a purpose. And we shot the left-hand side of the picture with the 15 models, shot an individual shot of each one of them. Yeah. While they're getting changed, all the people that were there have stuck up in the gantry. So if you look in the gantry, Joe's in it, all the girls from AP, the snake handler, a couple of assistants.
And catering truck, anyone that's there.
The van driver. You name it, you were in it. And then they came back in and we shot the right-hand side. So they do double up. And I did a Polaroid at the end where I shot the front, all the people lying around the sides, and then which was the hairdresser, Johnny Vegas, some doorman friends of Joe's, some punks we'd met that we just dragged along. They went, will there be any drugs and drink? And I'm like, so not from my end. You get a Streps and a hot coffee for me, but it just come along and everyone's in it. You got dressed up as hairdressers dressed up as a monk, or I don't know what I did.
And this is where, knowing you've referenced Hieronymus Bosch and the Garden of Earthly Delights, these tableaus.
Yeah. That was Harvey Nichols, but this was definitely the Rake's Progress.
And so you'd done a bigger tableau for Harvey Nichols before you did the tableaux? Oh,
that was 2000, 2001.
And were you referencing Hieronymus Bosch in the Harvey Nichols?
Yeah. Yeah. That was what the campaign was named. That's where I met David Bray. And they basically, on that one, Dave had done a drawing and he had these insane drawings. And they always says, I thought they talk about getting a photographer and no one's going to be able to put that together. And everyone got roped in. So I had all these like Oompa Loompas as they were. I think on men's, they told me not to make it look too gay. So I dressed everyone up in flamenco dancing with big colourful shirts, but with birds' heads and cowboy hats. And they were all firing guns that had bang at them. And then on the other side of the picture, there's a boy with a target pinned to his bum.
Was that your reference or the art director's
mine, yeah. I think, yeah. And Dave as well. Dave's sense of humour in the drawing.
Right.
And it was like, there was a girl holding two boys upside down and shaking the money out of their pockets. And it was like, we can do that. And I nicked everything from the Imperial War Museum, Science Museum, Horniman Museum, animals.
Do you remember the first time you saw the Garden of Earthly Delights? Because I almost want to ask the question, why are you so drawn to the hell aspect of the 3 panels rather than the others?
We're all going to hell.
Do you believe that? Do you believe
I'd say, like with the rate of progress, it's like, if you look at the reality of life, it's a pretty cruel thing. I'm experiencing it at the moment. You know, I've got 2 or 3 friends who are ill and you suddenly kind of go, oh, life just goes. It's heaven and hell. I mean, Agent Provocateur, you know, like everyone would say, oh, you know, it's every bloke's dream. Me, there's 20 heads of packs going off. Is everything firing? Is everyone in there? Have I shot all the underwear the right way? Have I done this?
People don't realise it, do
and
they?
People don't realise it.
Oh, you're surrounded by underwear models. Yeah, that's great.
God,
The last thing I was looking at was tits. I was looking at the light.
I'd be mortified, absolutely mortified if anyone ever thought I fancied anyone. It was never, I don't think I ever had anyone say I'm not doing that, or if they had, I would have just changed the idea. And I used to draw those, the tableaus I drew. I looked at, you know, rate progress, and I looked at all the prostitutes and the thieves and the rogues. And it's a theme that's now back in with Tallulah Dreams. You know, when I did that story, they were all grim as fairy tale. Cause if you did trace it back, gosh, if you go all the way back, I'm 5 years old watching The Singing Reedy Tree, which is an Eastern European puppet program that I watched with my mum when I was 5 or 6.
And said it was very dark.
And it was really dark. And it then transposed those things with the Tallulah Dreams thing. One story is about a man, he has this beautiful girl all dressed in Westwood, and he won't let her leave the house, and she cries and cries, and then the floor fills up with her tears, and then it fills up with all these koi carps so she can't escape, and then it freezes over because his heart's so cold. I would come home from trips and Lulu would say, oh, don't tell me Little Red Riding Hood, tell me something else. So they would always be about a naughty girl called Tallulah. And that book's, I'm just doing that at the moment. I've written it down. I knew the stories. I could tell them from my head. And for about a year and a half, everything was geared towards that exhibition. Any editorial, I'd go, what about if the girl's dancing around in a room full of tigers?
Yeah.
And it'd be like, I got away with doing it.
So how many images were there within that series?
There's more than I thought. I think there's about 25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's, I want to say 6 stories. Yeah. They were all, I think 90% of it is shot with Charlie Davis, who was at the Sunday Telegraph it was then. And Charlie just never, sometimes she'd go, can you do it without the zebras? And I go, 2 zebras. She'd go, 1 zebra. I go, 4. She'd go, 3. I go, 5. And she'd go, 4. And that'd be it.
And negotiations.
There was negotiations went on, and someone trusted me, you know, and God knows what people thought, and there was a lot of afterthought stuff with Lee, the pan one. I've got my son stuck in the chandelier as a cherub. That's added afterwards.
Is that Troy?
Yeah, that's my son, yeah. And,
wow.
As a baby, pretty killed me saying that.
How old is he now?
He's nearly 21 now.
Really?
But, yeah, and that's him, but everybody is in Harvey Nichols. If you look in at Harvey, Troy's a spaceman in that one. Tallulah's a little fairy dancing, riding on the back of a leopard. And then there's one which is, I dressed them all up. My wife's a First World War nurse. I don't know. They're all mad things I used to nick out of, where was it? The Science Museum mostly was where I nicked. And I'd nick a Montgolfier balloon and put people in balloon. Dave's Hermann Goering flying a Messerschmitt 109. And me and Lee would just sit there and,
were you seeking out references though, or were they just sort of, you don't know?
I think it comes from Airfix models, the Beano, the influences are many, I think. It's kind of, definitely fashion came from, if you had to pin it down, Guibourg down. Yeah. And actually, weirdly enough, my dad was French and he would only buy Paris Vogue. So I was looking at Mike Reinhardt shooting Janice Dickinson really young, and then Newton and Bourdain. And I had this the one big regret I always had I would love to have shot for Paris Vogue. And I went to see them, and I went in 99, and the guy sat with a pipe. I've got a thing about pipes. Yeah. And went, this digital will never happen, ever, ever. And 4 months later, the digital issue of Paris Vogue. And I was like, I would definitely say I might have been too ahead of the thing.
Did you ever shoot for Italian Vogue?
No.
See, I would have said Italian over French was probably even more.
No, it was always about Paris Vogue. I would buy Paris Vogue religiously. I would buy Italian Vogue to look at Maisel, to look at Paolo Versi, but then you had your own influences. I mean, people I loved Dave Sims. There's too many to list, but I'd like what they were doing at them. So if you said jack of all trades and all that kind of thing, it sort of is, but I get bored really quickly. And
I'm going to interrupt you there, but I learned not long ago, jack of all trades is always used derogatory, but the actual full phrase is jack of all trades, master of none, oftentimes better than the master of one. That's the full.
I've never heard that.
Exactly, because we've always been brought up to realize, you're a jack of all trades.
Yeah. That's
so the
really
Rankins, the Baileys, the Albert Watson, who've done fashion, still lives, landscapes. You've got to get all your inputs.
That's really, because I do see it as, things change. Like I say, that Tallulah Dreams thing, the 5/4, and I shot loads of stuff. And one of the shoots was a Sunday Times one I did with Lee McQueen. I'd seen 2 trees and there was blackbirds in one and parakeets in another, and they were at war. I just sat and watched it and I thought, that'd be a great idea for a story. And so in the McQueen, everything was black. So, and I thought we'll have one white dress in the middle. And I did a big tableau for that.
What was it like working with him? I know
I didn't meet him.
You never met him?
I met him. Yeah, I met him once, but I can't say I worked with him. I never really, I was saying that thing with the Bowie thing. I don't remember talking to him at all. And in the old behind the scenes film, I'm chatting away. I'm sure I'm telling you where the toilets are or, but.
Talking about Liverpool football, probably.
Definitely not. But I don't remember this dialogue because I'm lost in that. And I always think it was, like I say, quite often I'll be sitting there, oh my God, are we going to blow all the power? And because I was shooting
when
on
it's
5/4.
Your job, like you say, Tim, you're focused on all the things. Your mind's all over the place.
I'm not even, I don't think there's anyone's got any right for any outer influence. It's like when you're in it. And I like I say, with the tableaus, I always drew them. So I didn't want the models to go, well, what do I do? I go, right,
reference.
You've got a sword, you're up a chandelier, you're fighting him, the dwarf's hitting you over the head with a drumstick, da-da-da-da. And everyone knew exactly what they were going to do. It was, if you lack direction, and I definitely learned that from Neil, tell people what you want and they're happy to do it. There can be no room for doubt. And I think that's what makes, there's spontaneity, of course there is, it's,
but when you're working on big tableaus like that, there's so much to get right, isn't there? There's so much intricacy. And then did it become the niche? Because suddenly there was lots of big tableaus with lots of people for lots of campaigns.
Yeah.
So did you become the kind of go-to guy going, right, we want 50 models in this. We better get Tim.
I think I'll probably push it that way. I think definitely, and I love my system. I love working with Lee. And like I say, we were a double act. The surreal aspect to it definitely drew people towards you. I've always been interested in that. I mean, I think lockdown was definitely a massive change. It had been coming, and I'd noticed that it was a financial decision. People prepared to pay a fortune for a photographer, but can you keep your lighting bill down? And there were all these weird things that I'd sit there going, I don't really understand. And I think once one of the key things that devalues you is, you work on the principle, I want to work. So someone go, well, we can't afford £10,000 a day. Would you do it for 6? And I go, yeah, and my lighting bill's 5.5. And they go, that's fine. And no one put 2 and 2 together. But, and it's a big but, I think you devalue, I think you either stuck out. It's like with art now. I can sell that print over there for £6,000, whatever it is. I don't know what it costs to buy. And there'll be another version, a smaller version on a cheaper paper that people can buy. And now people go, oh, can I have the cheap one? Can you make it just a little bit bigger? And you're kind of like, I admire the artists that go, no, I've made 6 images. That's all there is. End of. And I wish I'd done it like that, because I got into the art thing during lockdown, all by accident. So I'm sitting in my man cave thinking, right, I've got no work. I can't do shoots anymore. I did my mum's house out, which was, talk about quirk of fate. And in the shed at the end of the garden, found 2 big Agfa boxes with all the old negs in, an envelope with all the Bowie original transparencies in, because Bowie, you did the shoot for him, so he had everything else. So I think it's outside all days, I had everything. But they'd left me the transparencies to do the retouch with. I rang them up. I said, look, I'm not going to do anything untoward with this. If I could do some prints, for a show or an exhibition, they were absolutely, and that was in my original deal, I think. And they said, yeah, go ahead. And weird enough, Paris Gallery said, oh, we'd love to have 2 of your Bowie pictures in the show. This is just before lockdown. I did 2 big prints. Lockdown happened. The gallery shut down. And I went on Facebook, any big Bowie fans, here's 2 prints, originals. If anyone wants them, they can have them. Price of the print.
Still very blasé. I'm not an artist.
I just didn't want things clogging up my house. And the phone rang for 4 days. And I suddenly went, oh, there's a following here. And not because it was a money opportunity. All the fans he has, oh my God, ardent isn't the word. I mean, kind of a bit on the edge of obsessional.
Yeah.
And I suddenly thought, okay, and I turned down, there was this big thing in Liverpool that I just didn't have the bottle to do a talk. And so I opted out.
Why? Why didn't you have the bottle?
I just didn't think, I never liked that thing, like, what would they like to work with them? I didn't really talk to them. The truth is, it's like with models, I've shot some pretty famous models, but their conversations didn't go much further. Like, oh my God, you look amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Could you just do that?
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Oh, right, great. Next.
Yeah.
And, oh, that was great working with you. Yeah, I love you. No, I love you more. No,
see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
On a plane gone. And I think it's a sad side of it, because I think I've made some great friends, and that was one thing that really changed after lockdown. The humor went, seriously, worked with some funny people. And we would sit there going, we're on a yacht in the middle of the Caribbean and we've got to shoot 6 pictures in a week. So hard.
Yeah.
And pinching ourselves thinking, a lot of hair and makeup people come from pretty modest backgrounds. It's not, they usually have to graft really hard to get there. There's not many baronets and marquises doing hair and makeup, and they're great people. Most of the ones that survive to do well, launch products, they apply themselves and they work with loads of different people, good, difficult back. They have briefs, and especially now, I would have a brief of what to do with hair and makeup, but I'd always trust them unless they went right off the beam and did a pompadour wig when I was sort of shooting the 60s story. I'd be like, I'd just go with the flow and go with their creativity. Unfortunately, now there's mood boards into oblivion. Everything is mood boarded, and you will have clients going, I think it'd be great, but with curl and a wave, but no movement, but static in a bob. Just sit there going, okay. Which, and the poor hairdresser sit in the middle going,
is that just an art director trying to be useful when actually?
I think he's trying to, a horse designed by a committee is a camel. Yeah. I think everyone's trying. And I would say the big change, some people would just go, we'd have 6 outfits and go, oh, let's shoot that one. That's great. We shoot it and go, should we do that one as well? All right, do another one. And as time has gone now, it's like, we'll shoot all 6, and can we swap a bag and a shoe in each one, because they have to go back and appease so many people before it be an editor, your fashion editor, the old school Vogue thing, going back and showing Anna Wintour, and Anna Wintour going, but they don't advertise, or they're not a big enough client, dropped.
Yeah.
But you understood it, because without them, you don't make the pictures. Right. You don't get the stories. You don't get the madness. So you have to be smart. But I find the whole thing where it's, but the buyers and this person and our editor, and this is commercial and this is going to make us money. If you're working on that principle, it don't work for me.
And we've spoken about this before, hasn't it? It's gone from the days where you produce, like you say, the 6 shots in 6 days. It's now you've got to get content. You've got to get behind the scenes. You've got to get a crop for Instagram. You've got a crop for TikTok. And you're like, well, this is just
And now there's
diluting
an AI
all of the
feature that does it. So,
and now you're diluting all of the creative elements to those.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's still, oh God, like, funny enough, I was thinking about something you said, that surreal aspect. Oh, I missed a really important person. I've moved away from music, and album covers were probably the first thing that made me go, why does Roger Dean do Tales of a Topographic Ocean? Why did Bowie shoot the grainy Ziggy Stardust cover?
What are those album covers that stand out to you?
Oh,
you got favourites? As a musician, you must have loads of favourites, but
100%. It was called Walk Away Renee by Storm Thorgerson, who had a company called Hypnosis. And that's where I looked at pictures and went, what is that about? Why is that object in there? And that surrealism started, and that
searching
thing.
For meaning within pictures.
He was a huge. I found that book about 5 years ago. Found it at my mum's when I was tidying up, and I honestly, not many books make me cry, and that made me cry. I was just looking at it going, that guy's imagination, and peculiar, that Pink Floyd cover with the guys on fire, but it was more the early stuff, like the Straubs, and he did a cover for 10cc with How Dare You. And it was someone having a dirty phone call on the cover, but split in two, and amazing ideas. And I think you look back now and you go, look at House of the Holy and go, that's actually really weird. It's loads of kids.
Do you think that's where you got those references from? Concepts of narratives within? And of course, Newton, Bourdain, there's all those little surreal underlying narratives.
I mean, I bought my daughter bought me the new Bourdain picture for Christmas. It's the postcard, it's the picture held within a picture of
the Polaroids and the walk in the Charles Jourdan.
So many,
iconic images that have been ripped off. That's the amazing thing, isn't it? When you know those references, you can see for the last 40 years they've been ripped off. Knowing.
I mean, Newton, I think, is ripped off more than, and I think weirdest thing is when, like I said, with Bailey, you get, Helmut Newton got stereotyped with this, sexist, this abuse of women and things like that. I don't miss anything. You read the book and there's nothing but adoration.
Adored women.
And it comes from your mother, because at the end of the day, going on a Freudian tip, I think if you photograph women, there's somewhere along the line, there's got to be a maternal instinct. There's got to be, you asked about the tin. The story behind the tin is, I'll keep it brief, but I would go and visit my mum in, later life and just before lockdown and things. And every time I'd go down, she'd have this old tea tin with pictures, and she'd go, do you want to see your granddad in the First World War? And this is your Uncle Chaz, and this is your auntie, whatever, Eileen, and all this thing. And I picked up this pictorial history of what my family was. My mum's pictures, if I look at the identity they have, I've got a very mixed background. Mum was from Birmingham, I'd say very, very working class family. My his dad was a chancer. He came from Australia. I don't know his story, but whatever he did was very brave and very smart. He started the dental. He would go onto battlefields and recover troops. And so if you got blown up, they'd saw your leg off. What do you do when half your face was missing? You've got nerve endings in your teeth. He would actually do it in the field. So he developed this thing. He became an amazing story. There was King Farouk's dentist, meets my grandmother. They have everything. Then with all the uprisings in Cairo in 1936, they had to flee and they go to France. They lost everything in France in the Second World War. It was occupied by the Germans. His parents end up living in Catford with my mum's family, which was a family of 11, I think. But then life had just changed. There was this, story. And yet that is your primary story. That was my mum's story. There's a very old picture of her at Dockhead in Bermondsey School. And there's this picture of growing up as a kid. And I'm like, actually, the only real relevant story you have at the end is the one that you pass on to your kids or they show at your funeral. It's kind of weird. And she had this tin, and they think why I always called it the magic tin. No matter how many times I looked at it, there'd always be another picture coming. You have these, that's the story, I think. And if you...
Is that why you think that the tin's the answer? When I asked you about your mum's magic tin, it's more the answer.
What's going to be in my tin?
That's exactly my next question. What are the photographs from let's be honest, a 40-year career where you've shot pretty much everyone, Spice Girls, Jagger, Bowie, Grace Jones, you've done campaigns galore. But when I spoke to you the other day, you were like, oh, fuck all those. What are the images you really?
It's not. I
not
mean, they're
fun, though.
highlights. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's like, oh my God, you know, I'm very proud of it. But
what's in Tim's magic tin?
Tallulah Dreams. Now that I've done it, and now my daughter's grown up. So Lou was like 3 or 4 when I did that. Took the pictures, and now I put, you know, hopefully get it all together. I've written it, which is comedy half hour. Somewhere in there's something intelligent with me, and I have got a perverse sense of humour, which I don't always think people get. I would definitely, the book I did with Dave, Terrible Twins, available, all good books. Not really, it's just.
We'll put links to everything. We'll put links to everything.
That was really good. That happened last year. And weird enough, I was doing Photo London with Jewel, and Derek, one of the other photographers, had a book, said, you don't have a book. I'm like, I'll do a book. And effectively, I did that book in a week with Lee. And it was lovely. I reconnected with Lee. I had a rough idea what I was going to do, but it worked exactly how I wanted. I would ring Dave and go, well, I've got a space here. Can you do us a drawing? And we threw that book together. And that's the weird thing. Everyone thinks it was, but it wasn't. I knew it was be Gold Leaf. I knew it was going to be hardbound. I knew it was going to be the Terrible Twins.
Before you'd even...
I knew, and I had all the inside stories. Terrible Twins are 2 kids I met in South Africa, and everyone, oh, don't go to the area. It's really rough. And of course I did. I spent the whole day walking around with a Pentax 67 taking these pictures. And there was this big painting on a wall. The Terrible Twins shall without, you shall die if you, I can't remember what it was, painted on the wall. I took the picture and someone said, do you want to meet the Terrible Twins? I went, yeah. And so I met the Terrible Twins, took a picture of them. And then weirdly, I thought, I don't want to use it. I don't want anyone knowing it to be that obvious. And I used 2 kids that used to live next door to us who played knockdown ginger all the time. And I'd taken a picture of them and went into the archive, and I suddenly went, this is like the tin. I suddenly connected little things and went, I'm going to just trust in how those things connect. Dave's drawings and my work shouldn't really connect. They do.
Is that the closest thing you think you've done so far in terms of your work to being your magic tin, the book?
Yeah. I think I tried not to use Agent Provocateur. There's one Agent Provocateur picture in it. There's one Bowie picture in it. There's one Grace Jones in it. After that, it's all the little stories of the journey he had. They're weird enough, you know, and the weird thing is how they connect. A guy bought a big print recently, a copy of that one as pan for his wife. And we went to his house, amazing house. And we're chatting. There's a picture of this boy on a beach in Marrakech. And the long story short was when I was shooting, I'm doing a Lindbergh riff-off with a black velvet on the beach, you know, and the model jumping around the background. There's about 100 people watching. And me and Robert, in between shots, are playing football and kicking the ball around. He's in a pair of Chelsea shorts. And I took a portrait of him. And then I remember he came out to do this shoot in this outfit with these really short shorts on. All the men went mental for him because it was in Marrakesh. It's a bit different like that. And Rob's going, bloody hell, what's going on? I went, I'd get in the van as soon as we stopped shooting. And I took this picture and I chucked the roll of 120 in the bag and forgot about it. And this picture came back. I did this print. I thought, oh, it's lovely. I really like that picture. And I rang his agent and said, oh, I've got a picture of Rob English. And it's really nice. I don't know if he wants it. She said, you know, Rob passed away 2 weeks ago. I think he had a brain hemorrhage. And I was really gutted. And I thought, I know that picture. I know the story behind that picture. If you look at it, you'll go, there's something in it. It's a bit haunted. It's just a picture of a really lovely, beautiful young man, you know. And this guy, it turns out, when I worked on a building site in Caledonian Road, he said, oh, how did you start? I said, oh, my first job was, and I said, to go to a place called the Cali Cafe. He went, my dad's owned that. And that was, I don't know what year that was, 1970 something. And Rob was his first business partner. And we suddenly had this little connection. And that's what I think is magic tins are about. They're family connections that you suddenly, you know, you look at a picture, they're just, I love those little, you know, the tableaus of different Agent Provocateur, or I love leaving traces, you know, where's Wally type things.
Because what's your favourite one within the Agent Provocateurs or the tableaus that you've done, which is a little bit of a, like you say, where's Wally or spot this?
Oh, good question. I've only just printed the pan one up, which was the spring summer. And I started noticing little things that I've put in there. They've all got, Pirates is good because it's got a level of celebrity in it, and it's got Mick Jones from the Clash in it. And because he turned up when we were filming, and I stuck a Bonaparte's hat on him and he didn't like it, but I just thought, no, you're getting in there.
You've got to get those opportunities.
And I think I shot 2 frames before he took it off, but I kept the one with the hat on. There's lots in that, and there'll be like mice, or there'll be little things that if you look in Tallulah Dreams, I noticed the other day, and it was actually one of the bikers who worked at CETA. Clive's got a bit of a eerie face. If you look in the mirror on the picture, he's looking in at the little girl on the bed. Wow. And so there's little things that I did at the time that I just forgot. And then suddenly went,
so there are even like those Where's Wally moments to you as well.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't remember that mouse sniffing on that.
Yeah. I mean, the Tallulah Dreams has been mad because I've actually just found a load of images that didn't make the final edit for the show. And I was thinking, and with me, I discard it. Mm. It's like with the Bowie things.
In a shoebox.
In a shoebox. Yeah. In Mum's shed. I never kept it. And when I moved out of the studio, I had about 10,000 CDs, maybe more. And everything was on the CD. I hadn't backed anything up. And I had to move from the studio to a storage lockup. And I had them all on a trolley. And I went over a bump and the whole bloody lot fell out. So everything's fallen out of the cases. The case had the number on to the CD. Nothing matches. I hadn't written anything sensible in it, like the Sunday Times or anything. It was just a blank CD. And Mark, that was what Mark did during lockdown. He put the whole lot, he sat in my man cave for months, just putting it all back together,
really?
Putting it all onto drives and going, wow. Tim, you need to, it's still, we were looking at
but to have that archive of your work must feel quite special.
Still, right? We were looking for a picture. In Tallulah Dreams, there's a story about this character who collects girls and then pins them into a book, but they're still alive, but he pins them by their hair and their shoes or whatever.
Right. Okay.
And we saw these giant props, and it's a really great story. I can't find it.
Really?
Somewhere land. It's there. We'll find it.
You'll come across it.
It'll come across it because I need to find it, so I will find it. But yeah, and I've always said I struggle with photography as an artist. I'm not an artist. And when I came in here to the gallery by mistake, and Jewel happened to be a Bowie fan, and said, "Well, I'll put your show in the show that you went to in Battersea."
Yeah.
And that's how that evolved. I've never had this thing.
Oh, you never sought out to go, right, I need an avenue.
No.
Oh, wow.
Not at all.
I was about to say, now you're selling artwork, as it were.
Yeah.
But you don't consider yourself an artist still.
No. I like the bit. I mean, the book.
A storyteller?
Well, it will be that, but I think the books, I'm doing the book at the moment. I've curated one and Tallulah Dreams, I'm having to write it all. And think up all the ideas and make all the connections to the pictures so it all makes sense. I love that process, but do books make money? No.
But are they your magic tin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will be. And, I'd say if we're sort of done the full circle, really. One of the last things that I did, which was a very strange chance meeting. I did a Princess Trust thing and I met Jody Hirsch, Jody's a DJ, but he does it in drag. Just the nicest guy. And I thought, here's an opportunity. He was doing club nights. He was doing circus at the time. And I said, we should do a picture. And hardly anyone has seen any of these. I did circus. There's 100 people in circus.
Which are on your website.
Yeah.
Aren't they? And
sort of.
Again, big tableaus.
Yeah,
right?
You have to see them for real. I've only printed one up ever. I did it in big chunks. I think 4 big chunks. And people would turn up and you'd realize, it's Sadie Frost or that's, there's all these people in it.
All friends of friends.
And they're all friends of Jay's. And he had an incredible crowd of people like Monroe Bergdorf. There's Daniel Lismore. There's all these people. And I connected that my early days with the Bowie thing. I remember having a Bowie haircut and getting chased around Slough Market. I always had that little thing where I was never considered myself a cool and as mysterious as that. But I loved looking at what they did and anything I could do to promote that. Actually, I probably would have. Lee McQueen's a person he probably would have hated me. Or I would have thought, I don't know.
I don't know. Thinking of his work, your work,
his world would have made me uncomfortable. Fame has always made me uncomfortable. And, people always go, oh yeah, but you're great mates with Kate Moss. No, they don't know me from Adam. It's like, I've met them and that's
what
not
are your
my
feelings
world.
about Kate? Because obviously Bailey and people have said that Kate and Jean Shrimpton are the best models they've ever worked with. Is she different to every other model?
Just to survive. And for the fact that they're, I'm a massive Marcus fan. I mean, everyone she's worked with, you've got your best picture out of. And I think Marcus, I think there's numerous photographers I can say, you know, your big picture was that. So she makes things happen. She's a catalyst. I think all those Erin O'Connors, I think all the, you know, the supermodels and Karen Elson. Yeah. I remember photographing Karen Elson. Well, she was going to the opening of, she was going out with Jack White, I think, and they were going to the opening of the Bond film. And you know, you've got Karen Elson for 6 hours, and I had 18 outfits to shoot. It's like, and then there were rules. She doesn't want to be photographed like this and like that, and she wants to be photographed like, she wants to be the star of the show. And in the tableau, there's one with the sirens. And she looked incredible. We didn't talk really or anything like that.
Did you want to shoot her, but try and get some of the Guy Bourdin stuff? Because obviously Karen Elson is prime Guy Bourdin ex-model.
Yeah,
red hairs.
I mean, I would love to have done, but you know, I would still say there's nothing to me as good as I like a model. I can guarantee that 9 times out of 10, I've never really discussed. I did know with Kate. Yeah, I think Kate's in the book. And it was one of her very, very first tests for a hair product thing. And I did know, and they'd always say, oh, you're shooting Claudia Schiffer for a cover. Got any other girls you'd like to shoot? And I'd shoot Kate. And it never came off because it wasn't the name. And she hadn't been discovered yet. You just knew. And every photographer worth their salt has got a picture. Loads of people have. But you just knew. And I loved it when you photograph someone and they weren't discovered. I can think of loads that I've gone,
yeah, it's
you're
the classic,
amazing.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, no one else
gets it. And then they hit the mainstream and you're like,
they can not make it. That's the weirdest thing, you know. There was an Australian girl that I shot loads for, Lola. And Lola came on a casting at the studio and I just remember going, I think she's amazing. And I don't know
what
why.
was it about her that stood out to you?
That whole ambiguous Roxy Music Bowie thing. She's kind of big, tall girl, tough looking face, real sweet girl, really nice girl. And I remember all the stories I shot, pictures I did with her were always tough. And I kept thinking, why don't people pick up on it? And you've got to fit the current trend. You know, she wasn't the trend at the time. If she'd been around in Newton, would have shot her into oblivion.
Right.
She was that androgynous, unapproachable, looked like a bitch, was actually a total sweetheart. You know, really. Wow. A girl called Tia Eckhard. I think Tia's amazing. Terrified the crap out of me. No one's ever intimidated me like that as a model.
But when you looked at the images, were you like, that's why?
Absolutely. We shot her for Agent, I think with Serena for Agent Provocateur. And it was a magazine that we did. And it was, oh my God. I was just like, this is my ultimate. This girl is just amazing. Got red hair, like you say, you know, but her attitude, I mean, wow, says it how it is. Total, you know, probably what I've always liked. Yeah. You know, what do you want, a photo or something? It was, she was the queen of that. Yeah. She was the queen. If Susan Brown had been a real name, but I loved how she was in pictures. Absolutely. Don't fuck with me. I was in awe. He was great. And I was really sad because they used her on a campaign, I think, with Catherine Bailey. I've forgotten who shot it. And I was a bit like, oh, why didn't I shoot her for that? That should have been me, you know. Yeah. And I just mistimed it. I was coming to the Agent Provocateur thing was one of the things where it was getting a little bit designed by a committee and probably was a bit of a diva, really. I mean, Joe had sold it and it just suddenly didn't have the same, you know, I always loved it with Joe and Serena and Jess and all the people who worked for it. I mean, you know, the witches, you walk in, put a print up on the wall and you go, there's Tim, there's a bride getting her throat cut. And it's like, yes. Everyone's like going, oh no. And Joe walks in and he goes, really good if we had a pentagram on the floor, just so that everyone knows it's a coven. And I went away and painted one on the floor of my studio, or my office actually at the time, which was a tiny office in Great Portland Street, and photographs. And that's Compton, little bits of Compton like wolves and owls.
I know you said you've got these dark tendencies from the fact that life's quite dark, but is there something more to it? And also, you said anyone that shoots models, there's obviously something, there's that maternal element. Is that your mum? Is that, are you sisters?
No, mum. 100%.
Just mum.
I mean, I think
just because that resonated with me, because I was my mum's single mum, sister and grandma.
Yeah.
And I grew up with covers and covers of Vogue all around me. So it was a no-brainer in hindsight why I went down that route. I could very comfortable talking to women. It's not that.
Yeah.
Where's that connection for you?
Do you know, I remember watching that, Woody Harrelson film. And I always say, when anyone says they've lost their mum, and I always, that connectivity. And he says in it, and Woody Harrelson's character's, alpha male.
What film's that, sorry?
And it's 3 billboards.
In
South
Missouri.
So, yeah. And he said, I always thought I came in, and I definitely got that from my dad, was I'm a man, I come into the world alone, I go out alone. That's how it is. That's the way it's going to be. And he said, I thought that. And then I realized that you come in with your mother. Everyone comes in with a mother. And whether you love them or whether you hate them. Yeah. But that's the connection, the umbilical cord connection. And
this is personal, but how, you said whether you love them or hate them. How was your relationship with your mum?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got no...
there wasn't any darkness that suddenly manifests all Tim's dark
No. I'd say I couldn't care less. Funny enough, I'd say Dad was 100% a loner. He's old school, very Walter Mitty, and probably, like I said, the French Vogue connection came with Dad. He loved women, but it's that thing he understands love. He loved my mum. He liked women. Let's just put it like that.
Okay.
And, but he loved my mum, and they had this sort of peculiar relationship in many respects. But the bottom line of it is the connectivity. It's like, I think if you break down, without going off on too much of it, you can edit this out, but it's, you can break down in a relationship and it can all go wrong. And then you'll find that there's something that connects you, and usually it's your kids. I think my dad was actually realizing what love was very late in life. Really? And then sadly, I think he died at 73. And I think he just realized it isn't about work. He'd always, like we all, photographers are the worst. It's all about status, It's like, when people say to me, you're still shooting loads of big worldwide campaigns. And I go, why did you have to ask me that? Why? It kills me. And I got offered something really nice yesterday out of the blue. And my reaction was, I'm not sure I want to be filming things and because I had things after lockdown. That lockdown really changed everything. I did a really big job, huge tableau, and it got canned for a simple idea that someone had on the day. And I remember thinking, we really bust a gut to do something amazing and no one cares. And a little bits of being on shoots, and I did this big L'Oreal thing with influencers, and I've got a proper epic shoot. Even the filming was like early days of drones and we had a big Alice in Wonderland scenario. Everything was lit. Every set's lit. I've got 5 assistants. Oh, absolutely. And we went out, and the influencers just took pictures of themselves on the phone, and occasionally do one with somebody else. And I suddenly realized they're not interested in me taking any pictures.
No.
It was me putting on a show, and it was a show. It looked amazing. And it was all, I remember we had these big Jeff Koons toadstools built, and I remember this influencer coming out and going, oh my God, mushrooms. I hate mushrooms. I don't even eat mushrooms. And someone just, oh, icky. I don't like mushrooms either. And these 6-foot-high plastic Jeff Koons toadstool straight out the window in the skip. And I was just like, no one really got what I was doing.
But that's what we spoke about, isn't it? It's like I've spoken to you before about I got into assisting in advertising from the Guinness adverts and those, these incredible shots. And now it's content, Instagram, churn this out, churn that out.
Yeah.
Crops for this, crops for that. Whereas, like you said, if someone comes to make a beautiful tableau and some influencer says, I don't like a bloody mushroom.
Yeah. Oh. I think the natural conclusion to this now is our AI, which we've briefly discussed. And like with digital, I should have been scared witless of digital and gone, I don't know how to turn a computer on. I send an email and I kind of expect a ripple of applause. I'm not kidding you. But AI, but with anything, is a process of thought. And like I say, I think AI, what will happen, it won't be have photographers, we'll have curators. The people that can curate and have a knowledge of the history of photography that we've been through, like you and I probably, someone will show me a picture and I go, oh my God, that's,
Bourdain, and it's Weber,
that's Helmut Newton, that's Charles Jourdan, that's 1981, it's Penn, yeah, exactly. I can see everything.
And exactly like you say, shoot it in the Marchelier way with beautiful daylight and shot through the layers. And
it's
like you say, it will be curation.
It will be curation. And then the joyful thing is, and I think, Nick Knight has not been, I wouldn't say he'd been a guiding light, not because I think he's a genius. I think he's brilliant. I think he's got his story that he tells is fascinating. And I went to a show that Nick did recently, and I saw an artist called Von Wolf, and it was AI They look like light boxes, hyperreal, and now they move like a bird's wings will flutter. I was blown away. I came out of that show completely blown away because his appreciation of classic photography. There was as much surreal, crazy shit going on in the 1920s as there now. Everyone thinks all
Opium dens.
my AI things on my Instagram are just like all these gothic, I'm like, yeah, I've seen all this. This has all been done. It moves, and it moves in a different way. And it's a volume, and it's like, this isn't someone's work for 8 months. This is someone did it overnight on Midjourney. But the curators, I said like Simon Foxton, there's just so many. A model I work with, Terry Gates, we said the other day, the initial stuff was all mixing like Transformers, Bumblebee with a sexy, with Karen Elson and making this android thing and going, wow. And within 2 seconds, that was like dated. And then he's getting it to move, then they're getting it to do things. And now it's like, then he got ripped off by somebody else. And I saw someone else copying his idea, and there's no ownership. Everyone's just like, I can steal whatever I want because the internet is mine, because it's worldwide. No one's going to catch me. And you got found out back in the day. If I put a black canvas up on a beach, everyone went, and shot in black and white.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you didn't get away, But getting back to Nick, what I loved was he did a 12 Days of Christmas thing. And he basically puts a model in front of painters, illustrators, filmmakers, and the lighting is minimal. He shoots it all on his phone. It's ultimate content creation. And I as Bowie said, it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. I still like the Yogi campaign. I know it's his Bowie, whatever. I still look at the painting, the thing he did with Simon Fox, these black models all throwing red paint over each other.
The war one and
Solvay's picture with the yellow dresses.
Pirelli calendar, all the women's fantasies, but in the surreal digital.
It's
that was
still,
groundbreaking.
I want to see that one image. I don't think they do anymore. Yeah, I think galleries are struggling. I did something myself with Nick by coincidence for an NFT thing. And they used all the agent provocateurs, and we rostrum camera filmed them and mixed them all together. And then they projected them on they were like screens the size of that wall. And there was this room that we went into, and I walked in, and my pictures danced and moved. And I followed it around the room and was just like sitting there going, oh, this looks fucking extraordinary. And everyone was having their picture taken. They were doing selfies in front of the girls from Agent Provocateur.
So
and I suddenly saw
again.
Yeah, it was content. But in that little moment, I went, oh, no one wants to take this home with them. They all want to be filmed in front of it and film themselves in front. So it's their story. And what you're doing is renting out your tin, essentially. And it's content for other people. And that's the way it is.
But does that leave you positive because of the things or is it the same Bowie? It's positive and negative. It's going out the window, but I can now create this.
I still have a little thing, like with Tallulah Dreams. I thought, shall I do one last story and do it with the modern idiom? So the last story in Tallulah Dreams is her grown up and she models in it, which I probably will do.
Have you got the concept for that one yet? Or
I have actually. Yeah. But, it's like with the tableaus. I suddenly said the other day, if I'd shot witches and I had a huge, great big screen and the owl flies across the screen and the wolf moves around and there's 4 pages flutter in a book, that will be whether, I don't know how you sell that to one. It's LED, and I suddenly thought, if the story's good enough and you can animate it, I think, who wants to look at a 2-dimensional flat print, no matter how great. So I think big screen installations will be a huge thing. The commerce aspect of it, I don't know. I still quite like the idea of one-offs. I think I might do the 4 Asian Provocateur tableaus as one-off installations and sell them off. Just say it one, and that'd be it. But I think the commerce side of the print sales things is horrendous. I can't stand it. I'd rather give them away. It's like, I found that doing the book, I think the book, I don't know what the book cost me to make. I didn't care. I got it printed for me. I didn't do many. I did like them 150 and they've nearly all gone. And people have bought it. I think have been fans, and I've really felt like I'm really glad they've got it. oh, but you can produce it on Amazon and sell it for £13.50 and da, 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 da. I know it's the way to do it. And I know you reach more people and maybe globally you make more money and all that. I'm not asked. But really, I'm not.
Bespoke product is always...
Yeah, I'd much rather...
it's your tin at the end of the day,
it's
right?
my tin. Do you know what would be the dream scenario? Is that someone came along and, like with Toulouse Dreams, I do 20 prints on a wall, do a book. So everyone would buy the book at a reasonable price and that thing. And then someone came in and went, I want the whole collection done. Actually, weird enough, which was how Bowie worked for his shoot. You know, I got a flat fee and he owned everything. I'd love to be in that bloody Bowie thing at the V&A. I'm not sure whether they've got all the pictures or anyone knows them because he did so much work. And last thing on that Bowie thing was that when I did that, and because the album got mixed reviews and now it's actually becoming a little bit like people going, actually, I really like that album.
It's a bit more cold.
And they're kind of going, I get it. I actually get that with that transformation. He'd stripped everything back. The other things, what had to happen, the album cover had to happen. My only regret with the album cover was that and he's a brilliant artist called Rex Ray, but someone at the start of the Camel process, someone went, oh, these are really minimal and we better fill that space up. And Rex did these drawings overlays and did all this very clever artwork. And I think he'd be the first to admit that it didn't really go with the picture. And now they've done this hundreds of re-releases of the album and they've done it with plain imagery. And I think people have started to go, actually, they are quite nice. And I think they are quite good. I mean, lots of people, most photographed man in the world. So it's my day. No one can take that away from me. You know, and anyone ever says, oh, who's the best person you ever photographed? Seriously, on a personal level, it's pathetic, really. It's Stephen Gerrard.
Come on, then. Tell the Stephen Gerrard story because you photographed him a couple of times, have you?
Yeah, had a couple. I had my Joe Pesci Goodfellas one for Adidas.
Come on, tell that story.
The idea was just that.
Different audience, right?
Yeah. I'd photographed Chelsea and it had taken 6 weeks. They didn't turn up. We had to go LA. It was like,
for one player. Yeah, exactly.
And it was all this. And I thought, Adidas, I'm thinking, and Liverpool sponsored by us massively. And I'm thinking, oh, please be Liverpool. And it was Chelsea. And I came back and went, we want you to do Liverpool as well. I'm like, oh my God, 6 weeks leading up to the 2007 Champions League final. This is just the best job in the world. And they all turned up on day one in 15-minute intervals. They were all in and out and gone in a flash. Each player was 15 minutes and gone. Yeah. And they were all super nice. And I was so excited getting to Gerrard and Carragher, last two players. And he walked in and he'd had a stag weekend. And I went, how was your stag weekend? Did your wife enjoy her hen weekend? And he went, what? And we went through, Joe Pesci in Goodfellas with Ray Liotta. And I went, no, I just meant, what do you mean? I went, well, it didn't. What are you implying? Nothing. And, it got so bad that at the end, I was devastated. And he just growled at me the whole half an hour he was there. And 6 months later, the back of the cop has got all the latest kit pictures. And there's all the players smiling and laughing. And there's Stephen Gerrard looking at you like he wants to punch you in the face. And then I've got to photograph him. I think it was a year later with Jamie Redknapp had a magazine. He said, "Would you?" I went, "Oh God!" And I just had the best day of it. He was funny as anything and really nice guy. I just caught him on a bad day, and that day was the day. That was Jamie made. I never do pictures of people, and he went, "Go on, do a picture with Steve." And I'm like, "No, you could just get in there and do a picture." And he took a picture, and I just look like a complete idiot. I'm just grinning.
But do you treasure that picture?
I don't know where it is.
Oh no, it's a
Polaroid as well. And I don't know. No, maybe it's a digital. I don't know. I don't know where it is. But that was. I mean, that and Grace Jones.
So we mentioned Grace Jones earlier. Why was Grace Jones? Just because of her character?
Yeah. And it's it's proper old school. You shoot at night. She gets there at midnight. Oysters and caviar and
really?
Vintage red wine. And she's loud as you like when she turns up. And then you just...
What was that for? Evening Standard or...
It was. And I think it was... I'm not sure what it ended up. It ended up going everywhere. Like a press thing. And I was a massive Jean-Paul Goude fan. I mean, I think if ever you've got a cross between Newton and Bourdain, Jean-Paul Goude, her ex-husband. Yeah. That's a great book, Jungle Fever. Great book. And I brought the original one with me because I think it's 1977. But we had this thing where she was so fierce and terrifying. And then you start talking about children and about your love and your love for Jean-Paul Goude and what it was like and how difficult it was being a model, but nothing negative. She could have dwelled on all kinds of different things. She was a beautiful woman in every aspect. And we were in some studio and it was all night and we shot all through at 10 o'clock in the morning. I went, oh, can we open a window and get a bit of light in here? And it was one of those studios which had a loading bay or something on the second floor. And I opened this thing, I'm dangling my feet, sat getting the morning light. And when she came and sat next to me, so I really enjoyed it. And it was like, oh, so, and I said, look, this is really naff, because I thought it was really at the time. I said, would you sign that? She went, oh God, you've got jungle fever. And she's done a lovely big signing on the book. And then she left.
And you got the approval that you wanted. You always want those people.
Yeah,
to go,
maybe.
I love
I didn't think of it like that way. I mean, I do love powerful women. I'm not saying that, it's very difficult. So nowadays, women's talking about empowerment. I think Agent Provocateur was empowering? Not really. But women have always had, I want to be approved. I kind of, I probably do. And that does go back to your mum or what.
Same for me though.
I'd hate it if any model ever turned around to me and said, oh, I hate working with you or horrible to me. I'd be gutted.
Yeah, so would
I'd be absolutely devastated. I've got such a respect. My daughter models and a lot of things are passed on to her. It's always, that is a job. And you got to have that self-worth. And there's things out there trying to tell you not to have that self-worth. And if I'm really honest, I think a lot of women are very cruel to models in the industry. With this feeling that this is the time to empower. A lot do seize the opportunity to tell a model, no, she's not right, she's too fat, she's boring, oh, she looks like a princess. Yeah, I find it quite a strange thing. But I think for stars, there's so many good female photographers around the Hollywoods. There's so many, I could list them forever, I think it's a great time, but I do see a kind of equality. Pamela Hansen was no different to Neil Kirk for me when I was growing up. Ellen von Unworth was, I was often parallel because of Agent Provocateur with Ellen. And Ellen's a really fantastic photographer. And they've done their own thing. You've got to be very single-minded, independent. And I say it to my daughter all the time. Never let it, the weirdest thing in it is you go through your whole life. And I always think, I don't want to work for, if I think someone's really naff, I don't want to do it. And I've had, with Joe and Serena at Agent Provocateur, I loved them. I thought they were great. Yeah, I just had nothing but admiration for them. And
I think with Agent Provocateur, it sounds like you were very much part of the team. You were integral in a lot of respects to creating those things.
Like I said about with Anna Wintour, it's that thing, if you don't do the commercial line, you don't get to do the stories. And I think Grace Coddington says that at the end of the September issue. There's a story, she's trying to get a McQueen story through and it keeps pushing. And Anna Wintour's going, it's not commercial enough. It's not going to happen. It's one of them things where I just sort of think you have to bow to commerce. Any artist that's doing their work, if people don't get it, it ain't going to get seen. And you can look at something that you think is naff and go, why does that work? Why does that work?
Do you think people get your work?
I don't care. I really don't. I don't give a shit. I think
is that a more important thing to not give?
More important is that what goes out, right down to the detail. If the detail's right and people can be bothered to look, I think with the book, everyone's gone, why have you done a collab with Dave? Because I like Dave. Simple. The next one, I'm not going to call it the sexy book. The saucy book. Let's call it saucy. I like saucy. It's a better word. Where I'm going to the things, or little things that I kind of think have gone, might get you cancelled or whatever. I will put paintings in by Warren King. I love Warren King's work. I think he's a brilliant artist. And I would put more of Dave's work in. I put other people's work in because they influenced me. Dave influenced me. Dave makes me laugh on a regular basis. And sometimes he puts something with mine that's might look quite serious. And then you put something with it that you go, Tallulah Dreams actually, that has been quite interesting because it's a revisitation and it's not just an archive thing because, I didn't tell a story properly. As usual, it was like, I'm on to the next one. The Harvey Nichols went in the Louvre. I didn't know. I found out that it's in the V&A as well. And I'm like,
really?
Oh, I didn't know. No one told me.
What?
I never bought the Bowie album cover. I didn't get an autograph on the day. It's
like you say that it's so fast paced. You're on to the next one.
I want the next one.
Do you feel like you're going at a slightly slower pace now?
Different pace. I think it's, I'm actually being held responsible, I think.
And what's the end goal to that pace for you at the moment?
Ideally, more books and shooting for books. Like I said, I'm going to do that shoot with the Lula.
And then turn the whole collection
and then
into
put it into a book and then do an exhibition with it. And then
do
by
the
then, Saucy book will be out.
So there's your 3.
Yeah.
Have
so
you got any, apart from those, I know they're quite epic. What else is on the cards for Tim in the future? Obviously, we are sat in a gallery and you can buy many of Tim's prints. I feel like we've got to do a little push.
The 4 AI things I will do.
Oh, you like?
Well.
Okay.
So that's going to keep me, doing it for yourself. Doing it, and it's a weird thing. I think I might leave this as the epitaph of this talk. It is all the way through numerous people with Penny Charrington, the art teacher, Carl Templer, Roberto. People have always gone, do what you believe in and what you think. I mean, you've got to have that commerce sense, ability. Life might have been different if I'd 100% believed in everything I did and just gone, no, I'm doing it that way. I remember doing a job. No, I asked to do a job and I think it was pot noodle. It was something like that. And they called me in and they went, we want you to shoot Victoria Silverstedt on a donkey in the Mojave Desert with a mariachi band singing a mariachi song with guitars. And I went in.
But stills, not motion.
Stills, yeah.
Sorry.
And I was a bit like, sorry, I don't eat pot noodle. I don't want to work with Victoria Silverstedt. I don't want to work with a mariachi band. I'm not interested. And I walked away. And about a month later, the freelance assistant was working with me. He went, I've just been out in the Mojave Desert. And he went, it's mental. We did this pot noodle thing. And we did with David LaChapelle. And I just sat there and went, yeah, I still felt it. I didn't want to do it. It's like now, I told you a job came in yesterday. If it comes back and they go, oh, it's shooting something that I think's shit, I'm not interested,
Did you, once you heard that LaChapelle had photographed, was that, oh, well, they came to me first? No.
I just thought David LaChapelle's about 100 grand better off. In fact, I got very synonymous with him and it kind of hurt me because I always thought I'm much more European looking. The stuff with Jodie's is more, Amanda Lepore's in it. There's lots of muscly men and it's probably more homoerotic. I don't know what you call it. A lot of oil. I wasn't asked. I didn't care. I just think, no complaints. No, good for him. I think you get out what you put in. If I haven't got any notoriety or I haven't got my place booked in the annals of photography, so be it. Thousands of great photographers. I think to do it now as well would be really something, because I think to do it in the days of the Baileys and the Penns and Avedons, they really were. But then, see, that stuff exists then, that's 1970. It's probably more out there than anyone's shooting at the moment. And there's none of this. There's always this latest. That's the thing. We look for the latest and the newest and the AI and the NFT and we're going to make millions. And it's like, go on, do something that stops me. I walked into Nick's show the other day and I saw examples of the best work. He was just like, I'm showing the world a narrative. These are what people are doing. And Simon Foxton featured it, who was his old stylist. I think Simon's retired from styling now, works with Midjourney. Amazing.
Some crazy stuff, isn't it?
It's got imagination. And if you turn that imagination into a visual imagery, which is what AI will do, then great. I'm all for it.
Where do you think that leaves photography though, Tim? As to
you said yourself, you've just done a course on screen printing. I think screen printing was dead 10 years ago, and people are going, the process is like the darkroom. Is there a better feeling in photography than the darkroom? No. I think working on a print and then getting the exposures right, and it's in the dev and it goes in the wash and then it's in the fix and then you turn the light on and go, there's something handcrafted and made.
Yeah.
And
is that how you feel about the books?
Yeah.
The element that they're
when we're making
your
them,
stories, you're handcrafting them, you're curating that whole.
And the book, I found a place in Scotland, David. And, when I said, can we have a little ribbon in it to open the page on it? Can we have gold leaf on the sides? Or can we have a little musical playlist in there that connects to Spotify? And what can I do? And I had all these little ideas. And then we just did them all. And he was just infused and it came back. And I still open it and go, God, I made that.
I was going to say, what was that like when you saw the first copy?
Why didn't I do that earlier?
Really?
Never thought about it. never dawned on me. I mean, even galleries and shows and things like that, I still don't.
And you sort of say like the gallery shows almost became a bit by accident, didn't they?
Yeah,
You
100%.
came into here and Joel was a big Bowie fan.
Yeah.
But now these books, it's interesting. I know I started with your mum's magic tin and people are like, what the fuck are you talking about a magic tin? But I feel like I wanted to find
I think
what
I
your
wanted
magic
to
tin is.
you said a couple of things in the jack of all trades quote. That's actually really, cause in the quieter moments, I kind of go, that's half decent, actually. That's quite nice. Actually, someone buys a print and I go up to print space and they bring it out and I have to sign it. They lay it down and I go, wow. And if I haven't printed it before, I've never printed sirens.
Oh, really?
Someone bought a massive 7x5 footprint of sirens for New York and took it out. And I just remember going, wow, that is actually quite cool. I didn't remember there were hyenas in it. I didn't remember there were, bones and things like that. Yeah.
It's like those little Easter eggs in films, isn't it?
I love that. And it's always that I always
But
love.
it's interesting that you've forgotten half of them as well.
But still I look at with Joe appearing in all the tableaus. It was always that one of my biggest early influences was Hitchcock. Always loved Hitchcock films. And I liked how disturbed they were and how wrong they were. And yet he was actually quite ridiculous. And actually, when you look back at the birds and go see what he did to Tippi Hedren in that film, and you go, he's a really weird man. I mean, maybe I'm weird. I don't know.
Do you think you need an element of weird in inverted commas to do what we do?
I think you need something. You need another perspective. I think if you have a perspective, so many people that I admire that I just think, like a lot of rappers, I wouldn't say it's like my primary source of music. I'm more a jazz person, but I really love music. And I see a rapper and they'll come up with an idea. And I think, I'm listening to it and I'll go, I've heard this style, I know that. And then suddenly listen to it and go, actually and then I'll hear a bit of John Coltrane being sampled in the background. And then, that's Jack the Johnette. Oh, where'd that come from? And the MacGuffins that Hitchcock always talks about, those little things where you go, actually, why the hell am I watching this? And then you trace it back. And I do think you trace it. God, do you trace everything back to the mother?
Oedipus.
Yeah, is it Oedipus? Yeah, maybe we've got an Oedipus.
Should we just
complex.
blame our mothers and leave it on that too?
Yeah. I mean, I've got, weirdly enough, my mum was very, very revealing, certainly especially later in life. I think when they go on that reversal transcend thing where I'd certainly last 6 months when my mum was alive, I think we talked about the 70s or the 60s and buying Me, Love Me Do in 1964. And then week by week, conversation went back in time. And then mum would start talking about the war and then she started talking about a week before she died. I always remember she was sitting in a sunny chair and I'm chatting away with her and a mouse went past her French windows. And well, Mum, you got mice. And then she stood up and she walked to the French windows and she pulled the curtains to and then she opened the curtains up and she sang me this song about a mouse that she'd sung at Dockhead School when she was 5. And she sang in a little girl's voice. I think it was 3 days later, she actually said to me, I'm not well.
Really?
And a week later, she was gone. And I kind of think she'd just gone back through the tin, emptying the tin out. And I'd give you one gorgeous thing she did. My mum was very, very proud of being from South London and not being an East Ender because she had quite a strong accent. People would say, well, your mum's a Cockney. And she'd be like, fucking Cockney. How dare you, And I remember we were sitting there and she gave me this letter and she said, look, there's a picture of my dad. And he was in his first World War outfit and he'd been in the Somme. It was in an envelope. And I looked at the back of the envelope and there's Charles Henry Harding on the front. It was her dad. And on the back, it had 1 Bethnal Green Square, E1. I went, well, you lived in E1 at one stage. And she took the envelope, put the picture back in it, and she stuffed the envelope down the side of the chair. And when my mum passed away, I went to get the tin. And I thought, I wonder if that thing's still down there, and it had gone. So she erased all knowledge of coming from living in E1. And it was always Bermondsey, Tooley Street and Spa Road and Jamaica Road and all that kind of stuff. But the weird thing is I know all her history and I know nothing about my dad. I didn't know my dad's parents' mum's name. When I was like, again,
really?
Well, who's this?
How interesting.
Her name was, I found out, and they only found out last Monday, her name was Cross. My great grandmother's name was Cross, C-R-O-S. And he was the total opposite to her. I mean, they come from a family of massive family history. It was none of them dads. And I had a weird thing with Dad. They never show any emotion. And one of the things I did, I said, I've got a film you and I are going to watch. And he went, okay. And we turned the lights down in the back room and we put on Cinema Paradiso. And it's a film about this projectionist. And what he does is he teaches this boy life through film. But he's always made to cut the kissing sequences out, for moral purposes. And the boy comes back years later after the projectionist has died and he finds this silver trip tin. That's ironic. I didn't think of that. And he's put together all the kisses and he goes into the projection room and he puts the film on and he projects all the kisses that have been taken out of, Humphrey Bogart or, right. All these kind of things. And it's just one of the most moving things. And I remember I looked around at my dad and my dad just raised his hand up to his eye, wiped his eye. And the film ended. And I went, oh, what do you think of that? He went, yes, quite interesting. And he got up and walked out. And I just thought, you wouldn't give me an inch, Joe. You wouldn't ever let it on and open up. And you realize, I think that generation are incredible because if I'd say, my mum, things happened to my mum during the war ends and my dad lost brothers and sisters, mothers, fathers, they lost everything.
We couldn't comprehend.
And they don't ever, never got pissed off about anything. Nothing. And I think the guiding thing would always be, say with my mum, would always be that thing where she would go, I'd come home and I'd moan about my wife and kids and how hard it was at work. And then she'd go, and she'd let me talk for that turn. And then she'd go, right, you're going to shut up now. I go, what do you? She'd go, stop bloody moaning. Yeah. You don't know how good you got it. Shut up. Get on with it. Well, and that was always,
It's like every generation thinks they've got it. It's tougher than the last.
Yeah. I mean, she did bore my kids with the tale. They got an orange one Christmas. She said, best Christmas we ever had. We got an orange.
And a piece of coal.
Yeah. And I was like, Mum, you must have got something else.
Yeah.
No, it didn't.
Is there anything you think we haven't spoken about that we should? I mean, we've spoken about a lot, Tim, and we've danced around and
I think it's all there. I mean,
there's obviously stuff that we can go, what was it like to photograph the Spice Girls? But I didn't want that. I want you and the legacy.
I think legacy is the key word. I think I don't profess to be able to say to anyone who wants to do photography or vision, whatever it is, AR, whatever you do, I can't tell you because the time's changed. Time's changed for Avedon and Bailey and it's changed for me and the time scales and all it. There's so many technical, the phone has changed everything, blah, blah, blah. But the one thing that will get you, is the oldest advice in the book. And it is that if you've got something to say and you want to show people what you want to say, then bloody do it. And if anyone turns around to you and says, oh, but so-and-so did that, or someone rips you off, don't worry about it. It's just tell your story. And that process of narration, forming a narrative, which is what photography does best. I think more so than painting. Yeah, with painting, you have to look into something and make a connection. And it's personal. But with photography, there are clues in photography. It's historical. Photography, that the history of my mum's family and the tin is there because those pictures there. If you look at historical pictures, and the greatest photography has always been reportage. Harold Evans, but the pictures on the page. Yeah, probably still my favorite photography book because it will show you a picture of the kids in Vietnam who have been hit with napalm and it shows you how the shot was done, how it was cropped for the newspaper, how it was cropped for something else. And everyone takes their different narrative. And you tell your story and you tell it honestly and really stick to your guns. And as soon as you start thinking about commerce, I'm not going to say you're screwed, but the less you distract from it by thinking, will this sell or will it make me famous? Will this get me in a gallery? Will this do that? Now making things is the important thing. Being in the darkroom, making the book, making the pictures, all those things are the fun bits. I don't think as a photographer, you never go home and look at the retouch picture and go, wow. You go home at the end of that first day and you get a contact sheet back in the day. What was more joyous and what looks like, it's putting across Birtstone. Where would we be without a red cross, pencils, But, I still look at those things. They're contact sheets. I think they're beautiful things.
Aren't they?
Yeah. That's the bit where there's no manipulation. There's no taking it off in a different direction. I mean, every photographer you've ever worked with, I always used to edit for magazines, right? And I give them 6 transparencies up each outfit. And I'd number them 1 to 6. And it didn't take me long to work out, reverse order them. Because they will never pick 1, 2, and 3. They'll always pick, 3, 4, and 5 look really nice. You go, but look at 1. And in your head, 1 is the one that connects. And I do think you do. I think you know.
You have to trust your gut.
Yeah, because that is the truest thing you're doing. You're going, that works. I know that works. I'm confident. And it will. And it is, with the horse and camel analogy, I've done a shoot or two with my daughter. And I just sit there going, why did you pick that picture? That's so much nicer. And I'm like, look at it. No.
Yeah, but we see things from
yeah. When they say to you now, he or she, whatever, has got an Instagram understanding. And it's that behind the scenes, what made the picture? I'm only interested in what was the best picture of that person. Yeah. I'm not interested in behind the scenes. I'm not interested
That's our old, we've got to get the final shot, the best shot for the advertiser to sell their best product. And we want that.
I think photographers, if they say, oh, it's all dying off, it's your own fault for publishing pictures showing all your lighting. And there seems to be a kind of like, I don't know, a currency out of that, which I just don't get it. When people sit there and go, I used a softbox with this over with a gauze shot through this. And I went through a phase when the lighting, we had to light softer purely for digital. So I had to flatten everything out. And everyone's shooting into an umbrella through another round, but through a scrim and then bounced up a scene. And I'm sitting there going, okay, all right, how many times can you bounce to bloody light? It's kind of like.
But then I never quite got that because in my brain I was like, if you put the light closer, it's going to be softer anyway. You don't need 17 layers.
The only thing that was used to amaze you with I've been studying photography for 5 years now. I'm now going to invest in a 500mm lens so I can stand a long way away and still get that feeling. And you go, why don't you just walk closer?
Yeah.
And it'd be like, save yourself 600 quid. And it'd be, I had an assistant. we got to stop because I got to talk for England, but that's all right. One thing, I had an assistant who I loved, probably the best assistant I ever had, an amazing girl, Sarah. And I remember, we're in a garden in LA and I go, put a beauty dish up there, put a strip there, softbox up there. Can you put 5 heads with grids on like small, medium, large down there? Color gel on that one, this, that, and the other. I'm just going to have a cup of tea. And I go and I come back and it'd be like Polaroid and it bang on. And I'm thinking, so we've done that whole process, you're kind of, it doesn't mean anything. And now everyone's just so like, I've now done
now
this.
It doesn't matter because they'll just do it on Midjourney.
Thank God. Thank God for Midjourney.
Thank God for
all hail Midjourney.
Although I'm not sure that's where I'd like to leave this podcast. Thank God for Midjourney. But
no, not thank God for it.
No, I think
don't hate him.
No, it's a new tool, isn't it? That, again, it's about an evolution of creativity.
Do you ever think it's like, if you use a tool for photography, it's like using the difference when you get a really good stylist. I've known that from day one. One element of hair, makeup and styling is wrong and the shoot's fucked. It doesn't matter what you do. I look back on so many shoots and I go, I can't look at that shoot because I don't like the hair. I can't look at that shoot. I don't like.
Like I say, if one element's
out, I looked at something the other day and I don't like the shoes. I can't look at those. No one's ever going to see that set of pictures. And it was like one of them things, get it wrong. And it's, I think if you can look at a picture at the end and go, actually, there's nothing about that picture I hate. That's the criteria for it being good.
That's hard though, isn't it? With any creative element, there's always something you could have done or there's always something you could do.
Maybe, but as long as nothing jars with you, there's not, I know all the work, all the pictures that would go in my tin. I'd have to say, I can't
That's
see.
your editing criteria.
I can't see anything wrong with that. I kind of,
Wow. I mean,
end it on that.
Well, no, I mean, I think we've spoken about so much and I'm sure there's lots of stuff that people will go, well, why didn't you speak about this? Or why didn't you speak about that? Bearing in mind, they're probably going to look at your back catalogue of work of advertising, portraiture and go, oh, I would have loved you to have spoken about that. But we have got a closing tradition. I think I have pre-warned you about the inspiring quote and someone in your network that you think would be an interesting guest to suggest to be on the podcast.
My inspiring quote would be, 100% just do it from the heart. And if you've got an idea and you think that's going to really take some effort, do it.
I think that's great advice, especially bearing in mind the audience that I think we've got, which is creative, entrepreneurial, goal setters, and they want to do things.
No, that would be it. The next person, it's really difficult.
I mean, God, there must be a lot of people in
There's a lot. I mean, I would ask Joe Corey, because I think Joe's doing different things now. I can ask him. I think that the most inspiring photographer I've met recently is Brett Walker. And I started following Brett when lockdown started. He's a portrait photographer.
But he does those beautiful, they're more surreal,
He's
layered,
amazing.
black and white.
I love his work. Absolutely love his work. I think he's reclusive, I'd say.
Do you think he'd say yes?
That's the best bit. I don't know. I'll ask him. Let's see.
Okay, so we've got him and possibly
Joe Corey. Yeah.
Joe Corey, if he doesn't say no. I think we're going to leave it there, Tim. Thank you so much for doing the Creative Noahland, mate. I didn't want to fanboy too much, but honestly, I'm very, very honoured and thankful for you doing it, because your work has been some that I've admired for a very, very, very long time. And to have you in the Creative Network is pretty epic now. So I can't thank you enough.
Good to be here.
And I can't wait to see future books with Tallulah, the NFTs of AP, or the screen.
One-offs.
The movement one-offs. Yeah. And obviously me being me, I can't wait for the Saucy book.
Yeah, the Saucy book. Yeah. I thought of one other quote you could. I always love that Motorhead quote of "Let's have everything louder than everything else." I think that'd be on my gravestone.
That's the drummer in you too.
Yeah, that's the drummer. Yeah, it is actually.
Great. Cool. Should we leave it there, sir? Thank you for listening to the Creative Noahland podcast. If you found anything inspiring or useful in this episode, please consider subscribing or maybe sharing the episode with a friend. Anything you can do to help promote and support Creative Noahland is so beneficial, and I really appreciate it. Check out the website and sign up to the newsletter to be the first to know of everything that's going on here in Creative Noahland. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, explore, inspire, and create.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?